Good afternoon, good time of your day, everybody.
Итак, марафон у нас почти что без остановки ведется.
We're going non-stop at this point.
Открываем другую сразу же.
We're going the distance.
Скоростью мы должны двигаться в духовный мир.
This is the speed we should go to the spiritual world without stoppage.
Читал седьмую песнь.
We're in the 7th canto,
Часть.
the second half of it.
Картинки смотреть.
We're gonna
Когда встал на духовный путь, первый раз увидел Бхагаватам.
it's like when you're a child and the first time you see like the first time I went there and I moved to the temple to live.
Знал, что есть книги Прабхупады.
I already knew that there was Prabhupada's books.
Мне нравилось картинки смотреть, что в каждом Бхагаватам
I like to look at the pictures in the Bhagavatams that are on every cover,
те или иные темы или главы.
that are on the different topics of the different chapters.
Дева
When I saw Nrsimhadev,
настроиться просто.
it was really, really nice. I don't know if I'll see him or not see him.
Полистай немножко вам. В начале
Wow.
каждой иллюстрации, в начале есть
Every illustration starts with
место, где
there's a
собраны иллюстрации всей книги.
there's a
То есть самой
picture of
книги нету, но есть такая маленькая часть.
uh,
Всегда на первой
there's
странице
always Prabhupada in the first bit of pictures, and I always like seeing Prabhupada so happy and friendly.
Это Нрисимхадев.
This is Nrsimhadev.
Такая иллюстрация.
That's the kind of illustration.
Здесь он благословляет Прохлада,
This is where he's blessing Prahlad.
аватары.
There's the different avatars that are written about of the Lord.
Потом будет уже встреча, описание аватар, где есть Прохлада вот коронует на престолы.
This is where they're crowning
Здесь вот это
Prahlad. This is what we're going to read now.
Брахма с Господом выпили нектар.
Where
да.
Brahma drank the nectar with the demons, and
Силой город Трипуры, который уничтожил Господь Шива.
they're looking at the three things where they're destroyed the towns where Lord Shiva Lord Shiva destroyed the 3 cities of the demons. You can see this is where Narada Muni is telling Yudhishthira about this, about how Krishna killed Shishupal, Dandavakra, and this is the conversation about that. This kind of pictures, yes, about how the soul changes bodies. For inspiration.
Итак, марафон он будет набирать обороты, это всегда так, то есть азарт, страсть.
A marathon is always going to work out a lot of things, even even a material marathon, a worldly marathon. Here's our intense time. We don't have very much time left in the running. And then our straight finish is going to be very powerful. We'll feel this victory in 7 days. A lot depends on us. If we want to feel that this victory has happened in our lives, some people might not feel it. They might ask, where is the victory? The spiritual victory. Where is it?
память напомнить
I'll try to freshen up our memories about
понять это качество
how can we understand the quality of it,
чтобы ощутить эту победу.
how to feel this
Так
victory.
как у нас все в реальном режиме, то есть не просто какая-то
Oh.
игровая площадка, где мы развлекаемся.
This is the real world. This isn't some sort of playground.
Будем ощущать развлекательные такие эмоции.
We're not going to
Сделали что-то такое,
feel any sort of like entertaining emotions.
помогли там. Ну, а где духовная победа?
Where is the
Победа.
spiritual victory?
Духовно имеем в виду. Где же это?
We're talking about spiritual quarantine.
Как я сказал, напомнить
We're trying to
то есть наше сознание, что значит
remind and
духовное.
freshen up our consciousness to understand what is spiritual victory.
Победа это значит цена. Победа это значит усилие.
Victory means value. It means your how much you put into it.
Какая-то угрюмость, уныние. Они не дают
It's
нам
not-
почувствовать вот эти победы жизни.
These kinds of things, like being alone, feeling depressed, in material life, something it's like somebody stole something or somebody robbed something or cheated.
У людей нету веры в себя, как духовный учитель нас говорит.
Because people have been cheated and robbed and stuff, people don't believe in the spiritual teacher. They don't have the faith in him.
Люди веру просто не могут, почувствовать, развить в себе.
They can't develop this faith in themselves.
Поэтому,
Therefore,
сейчас, чтобы нам понять, что же это за победа,
for us to understand what this victory is,
проявиться, это значит усилие.
we need to understand that this means that this is our strength.
То представьте,
Victory is our strength.
какие усилия нужно приложить, чтобы эта духовная победа произошла.
That's how we can understand that a spiritual victory has happened.
Качество этого марафона, чтобы ощутить эту победу,
So the quality, in order to feel the quality of this victory from this marathon,
давал, то есть она прям принесет пользу людям
it'll
от того, что мы сами будем
bring great use to people so that we can see that we're more plugged in,
глубокой, сильной, ощутимой.
that we can feel it more, we can
Вот это наша мотивация такая внутренняя.
see our internal motivation.
Эти 7 дней, это наши 7 дней, после которых мы уже уйдем в духовный мир.
These 7 days, we can feel that we're already going to the spiritual world.
У нас было 7 дней, но сейчас
Before this,
остается не 7,
we didn't know.
3 дня остается.
Now we only have 3 days. We're going to the finish now.
Серьезностью нужно погружаться.
Need to really seriously become absorbed in it.
Что не умрем, это понятно.
Okay, we're not going to die,
Нужно сделать так, чтобы наше
but
сознание,
we should do
насколько это возможно,
that which our
реальном.
consciousness is getting closer to the actual reality.
Дело, если бы у нас реально осталось вот 3 дня жить,
What if we really only had 3 days? How would we read this?
проводили этот день.
How would we spend that day?
Как вот это сделать? Ну, это сделать так, чтобы никто, насколько это возможно, не пострадал рядом возле нас, чтобы они не чувствовали, что мы тут как
We should
фанатики какие-то решили, да.
Feel that this isn't, we're not some sort of fanatics that we're just deciding to die. No, we're not getting ready to die.
Открылся, и это погружение сильное было,
But
надо войти
when
самим в это состояние, для нашего блага. Это наше благо.
The mood of the Bhagavatam is for our benefit,
Да, мы вот
for our
эти
spiritual
самые,
benefit.
скажем так, да, вот мы
We're our
хотим
Prikshits ourselves.
понять, что
but
нам сейчас надо сделать, чтобы
We need to understand what we need to do
промахнуться,
so we don't
не родиться еще раз, опять
we
в
don't
какой-то форме.
come back into some sort of form of life.
Мы прочитали,
We've gained a lot of experience. We've
у нас уже
read
опыт
a very large part of the Bhagavatam,
промахнуться,
and we should understand
промахнуться.
what it means to dip into it.
История об Аджамиле, она еще раз
The
должна, по идее, тех, кто
story
читает,
of
она
Ajamil should,
как бы
in
отрезвить нас.
idea should
Аджамилу,
freshen us up.
Нарада Муни,
Narada,
отрезвили его с Ангирой. Они сказали, почему ты думаешь, что ты
Narada Muni was talking about,
почему ты думаешь, что это тело
Narada was talking with Angira Muni.
вообще? Почему ты живешь на
Why,
материальной платформе?
why are you living on the material world? Why do you want a son? Why are you suffering?
Сразу же, почему ты так думаешь?
Why do you think that? This is with this is about Chitraketu.
Аджамила то же самое, жил. Почему ты
Same
думаешь,
thing with Angira
не
Muni.
умрешь,
You read
и мадуты, не вытащат тебя из тела? Почему ты такой уверенный?
about Ajamil. Why are you
Вот мы
doing
должны
this?
быть этими очень серьезными людьми.
There are some very serious people now.
Многие сейчас пробудились.
A lot of people have woken up.
Интерес, вкус к этому, ты знаешь, душа
A lot of people have
что-то, потому что
woken up. The soul has woken up.
настоящее вещи,
They've
что
read about something, heard about something real, something eternal.
Но сейчас я бы также попросил всех нас
Now I'm asking all of us
опять вспомнить
to try to remember again the value, the importance of certain things.
удержать до конца.
And we need to keep this concentration going to the end.
Это сейчас из чтения.
We can get it from the reading.
Читали.
Remember how much we've already read,
Серьезно подойдите к этому.
and we should be serious about it.
Очень интересное, хорошее времяпровождение.
It's a very interesting way to spend time.
С Бхагаватам.
The connection with
Очень концепция, что мы
Bhagavatam and our general conception of Bhagavatam.
И благодаря вот этой совместной
And
деятельности
thanks to this this group activity,
безусловно, она
this Sankirtan,
финишировать очень хорошо.
we're gonna finish up really nice.
Ощутим эту победу.
And we're gonna feel this victory.
То есть, если вы будете писать,
If you're going to write,
может быть, вы как-то маленькие селфики можете
just
делать.
do a little selfie.
Две. Свои реализации. Как
Share your realizations.
победа произошла,
What did you feel? How is it going? How is it happening? How's the victory going on?
реализации,
If you have some sort of realizations,
ну, записывать и
write them for us.
отправлять их,
Send them
чтобы
to us.
вы сами, когда будете это проговаривать или прописывать, вы вот в этот момент поймете, какой ваш уровень сейчас.
When you write it out or record something, you'll understand what's your level right now.
Если вы ничего не выкладываете,
How much have you progressed?
остаться внутри, потом, как говорится,
If something's left over in the inside, you'll see it.
пожалуйста, сделайте это.
So please do this.
Вам самим это будет нужно.
You'll need it just even for yourself.
Посмотрите на себя.
You'll be able to look at yourself.
Вот что-то я
This is what level I'm at.
как бы не добрал, а вот здесь как раз вот то, что нужно. А вот
I didn't get to the right point here. Oh, and here, this is what I need.
произойти у нас.
And this is how it should happen with us.
Я желаю всем скорейшего открытия второго дыхания, если кто-то чувствует.
I wish everyone gets their second wind.
Финиш как будто бы.
Have a nice finish.
Нет, нет. Мы будем очень сильно.
No.
Большинство из нас захочет, чтобы этот марафон не останавливался.
We're gonna want to feel that this marathon doesn't finish.
Свою приверженность.
That we're continuing on and
Приверженность к отношениям.
we're feeling the support of the material world, the spiritual world.
Общение продолжать, потому что он как раз в это
We're
время
hoping that this kind of association with Bhagavatam continues.
убежденный, потому что он думает,
That you should
наконец-то,
feel
наконец-то,
woken up.
всем приходила душа в этот мир, она сейчас это получила, сейчас она может это
That
пройти.
the soul has gotten to this thing. Now it needs to
Процесс, как бы,
appear in your life.
его нужно наоборот сейчас активировать.
You need to activate it.
Этого я желаю всем.
Therefore I wish everyone.
Продолжаем.
Okay, we're continuing on.
Да.
7th canto,
Наука о Боге.
Science of God.
Прочитаем молитвы благоприятные.
We're going to read some auspicious mantras, some auspicious prayers.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskrityam Naram Shiva Narotama. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tatujaya Mudirayet. Nashta Praesha Bhadrishu Nitya Bhagavatam Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Я поставлю музыкальное сопровождение мне самому.
I'm going to set a musical setting.
Вы напишите.
If it's bothering you, just let me know.
И тогда, как-то дайте себе знать, и мы тогда выключим.
And if it's bothering you, just let us know, and then we'll turn it off. Don't be shy to tell us.
Седьмая песня.
Shukdev Goswami continued, after hearing about the activities and character of Prahlad Maharaj, which are adored and discussed among great personalities like Brahma and Lord Shiva, Yudhishthira Maharaj, the most respectful king among exalted personalities, again inquired from the great saint Narada Muni in the mood of great pleasure. Maharaj Yudhishthira said, "My dear Lord, I wish to hear from you about the principles of religion by which one can attain the ultimate goal of life, devotional service. I wish to hear about the general occupational duties of human society and the system of social and spiritual advancement known as Varnashram Dharma. O best of the Brahmanas, you are directly the son of Prajapati, Lord Brahma. Because of your austerities, mystic yoga, and trance, you are considered the best of all Lord Brahma's sons. No one is superior to you in peaceful life and mercy, and no one knows better than you how to execute devotional service or how to become the best of the Brahmanas. Therefore, you know all the principles of confidential religious life, and no one knows them better than you." Sri Narada Muni said, after first offering my obeisances unto Lord Krishna, the protector of the religious principles of all living entities, let me explain the principle of the eternal religious system, of which I have heard from the mouth of Narayana. Lord Narayana, along with his partial manifestation Nara, appeared in this world through the daughter of Daksha Maharaj, known as Murti. He was begotten by Dharma Maharaj for the benefit of the living entities. Even now, he is still engaged in executing great austerities near the place known as Bhadrak Ashram. The Supreme Being, the Personality of Godhead, is the essence of all Vedic knowledge, the root of all religious principles, and the memory of great authorities. O King Yudhishthira, this principle of religion is to be understood as evidence on the basis of this religious principle. Everything is satisfied, including one's mind, soul, and even one's body. These are the general principles to be followed by all human beings: truthfulness, mercy, austerity, observing fasts on certain days of the month, bathing twice a day, tolerance, discrimination between right and wrong, control of the mind, control of the senses, non-violence, celibacy, charity, reading of scriptures, simplicity, satisfaction, rendering service to saintly persons, gradually taking leave of unnecessary engagements, observing the futility of the unnecessary activities of human society, remaining silent and grave, and avoiding unnecessary talk, considering whether one is the body or the soul, distributing food equally to all living entities, both men and animals, seeing every soul, especially in the human form, as part of the Supreme Lord, hearing about the activities of the Supreme Lord, hearing about the activities and instructions given by the Supreme Lord, Personality of Godhead, who is the shelter of the saintly persons, chanting about these activities and instructions, always remembering these activities and instructions, trying to render service, performing worship, offering obeisances, becoming a servant, becoming a friend, and surrendering one's whole self. O King Yudhishthira, these 30 qualifications must be acquired in the human form of life. Simply by acquiring these qualifications, one can satisfy the personality of Godhead. Those who have been reformed by the Garbhodan ceremony and other prescribed reformatory methods performed with Vedic mantras and without interruption, and who have been approved by Lord Brahma, are Dvijas, or twice born. Such brahmanas, kshatriyas, and vaishyas, purified by their family traditions and by their behavior, should worship the Lord, study the Vedas, and give charity. In this system, they should follow the principles of the four ashrams: brahmacharya, grihastha, vanapras, and sannyas. For a brahmana, there are 6 occupational duties. A kshatriya should not accept charity, but he may perform the other 5 of these duties. A king or kshatriya is not allowed to levy taxes on brahmanas, but he may make his livelihood by levying minimal taxes, customs duties, and penalties and penalty fines upon his other subjects. The mercantile community should always follow the direction of the brahmanas and engage in such occupational duties as agriculture, trade, and protection of cows. For the Shudras, the only duty is to accept a master from a higher social order and engage in his service. As an alternative, a brahmana may also take to the Vaishya occupational duty of agriculture, cow protection, or trade. He may depend on that which he has received without begging. He may beg in the paddy field every day. He may collect paddy left in the field by its proprietor, or he may collect food grains left here and there in the shops of grain dealers. These are 4 means of livelihood that may also be adopted by brahmanas. Among these 4, each of them in succession is better than the one preceding it. Except in a time of emergency, lower persons should not accept the occupational duties of those who are higher. When there is such an emergency, of course, everyone but the kshatriyas may accept the means of livelihoods of others. In time of emergency, one may accept any of the various types of professions known as Rita, Amrita, Mrita, Pramrita, and Satyanrita. But one should not at any time accept the profession of a dog. The profession of Unchashila, collecting grains from the field, is called Rita. Collecting without begging is called Amrita. Begging grains is called Mrita. Tilling the ground is called Pramrita. And trade is called Satyanrita. Engaging in the service of low-grade persons, however, is called Swavrite, the profession of the dogs. Specifically, brahmanas and kshatriyas should not engage in the low and abominable service of shudras. Brahmanas should be well acquainted with all the Vedic knowledge, and kshatriyas should be well acquainted with the worship of demigods. The symptoms of a brahmana are control of the mind, control of the senses, austerity and penance, cleanliness, satisfaction, forgiveness, simplicity, knowledge, mercy, truthfulness, and complete surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. To be influential in battle, unconquerable, patient, challenging, and charitable, to control the bodily necessities, to be forgiving, to be attached to the Brahminical nature, and to be always jolly and truthful. These are the symptoms of the Kshatriyas. Being always devoted to the demigods and spiritual master and to the Supreme Lord Vishnu, endeavoring for advancement in religious principles, economic development, and sense gratification, dharma, artha, and kama, believing in the words of the spiritual master and scripture, and always endeavoring with expertise in earning money. These are the symptoms of the Vaishya. Offering obeisances to the higher sections of society, the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, being always very clean, being free from duplicity, serving one's master, performing sacrifices without uttering mantras, not stealing, always speaking the truth, and giving all protection to the cows and Brahmanas. These are the symptoms of the Shudra. To render service to the husband, to always be favorably disposed toward the husband, to be equally well disposed toward the husband's relatives and friends, and to follow the vows of the husband. These are the 4 principles to be followed by women described as chaste. A chaste woman must dress nicely and decorate herself with golden ornaments for the pleasure of her husband. Always wearing clean and attractive garments, she should sweep and clean the household with water and other liquids so that the entire house is always pure and clean. She should collect the household paraphernalia and keep the house always aromatic with incense and flowers, and must be ready to execute the desires of her husband. Being modest and truthful, controlling her senses, and speaking in sweet words, a chaste woman should engage in the service of her husband with love according to time and circumstances. A chaste woman should not be greedy, but satisfied in all circumstances. She must be very expert in handling household affairs and should be fully conversant with religious principles. She should speak pleasingly and truthfully, and should not be very careful, and should be very careful and always clean and pure. Thus, a chaste woman should engage with affection in the service of a husband who is not fallen. The woman who engages in the service of her husband, following strictly the footsteps of the goddess of fortune, surely returns home back to Godhead with her devotee husband, and lives very happily in the Vaikuntha planets. Among the mixed classes known as Sankara, who are not thieves, are known as Antivasayi, or Chandalas, dog eaters, and they also have their hereditary customs. My dear king, Brahmanas, well conversant in Vedic knowledge, have given their verdict that in every age, yuga, the conduct of different sections of people according to their material modes of nature is auspicious both in this life and after death. If one acts in his profession according to his position in the modes of nature and gradually gives up these activities, he attains the Nishkama stage. My dear king, if an agricultural field is cultivated again and again, the power of its production decreases, and whatever seeds are sown there are lost, just as drops of ghee on a fire never extinguish the fire, but a flood of ghee will similarly overindulgence in lusty desires mitigate such desires entirely. If one shows the symptoms of being a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra as described above, even if he has appeared in a different class, he should be accepted according to those symptoms of classification. Thus in chapter 11 of the 7th canto, entitled The Perfect Society, 4 Social Classes. Chapter 12, The Perfect Society, 4 Spiritual Classes. Narada Muni said, a student should practice completely controlling his senses. He should be submissive and should have an attitude of firm friendship for the spiritual master. With a great vow, the brahmachari should live at the Gurukul only for the benefit of the Guru. At both junctions of the day and night, namely in the early morning and in the evening, he should be fully absorbed in thoughts of the spiritual master, fire, the sun god, and the Lord Vishnu, and by chanting the Gayatri mantra he should worship them. Being called by the spiritual master, the student should study the Vedic mantras regularly, every day before beginning his studies and at the end of his studies. The disciple should respectfully offer obeisances unto the spiritual master. Carrying pure kusha grass in his hand, the brahmachari should dress regularly with a belt of straw and with deerskin garments. He should wear matted hair, carry a rod and a water pot, and be decorated with a sacred thread, as recommended in the Shastras. The brahmachari should go out morning and evening to collect alms, and he should offer all that he collects to the spiritual master. He should not eat only. He should eat only if ordered to take food by the spiritual master. Otherwise, if the spiritual master does not give this order, he may sometimes have to fast. A brahmachari should be quite well behaved and gentle, and should not eat or collect more than necessary. He must always be active and expert, being fully believing in the instructions of the spiritual master and the Shastra. Fully controlling his senses, he should associate only as much as necessary with women or those controlled by women. A brahmachari, or one who has not accepted the grihastha ashram family life, must rigidly avoid talking with women or about women, for the senses are so powerful that they may agitate even the mind of a sannyasi, a member of the renounced order of life. If the wife of a spiritual master is young, a young brahmachari should not allow her to care for his hair, massage his body with oil, or bathe him with affection like a mother. Woman is compared to fire, and man is compared to butter pot. Therefore, a man should avoid associating even with his own daughter in a secluded place. Similarly, he should also avoid association with other women. One should associate with women only for important business and not otherwise. As long as a living entity is not completely self-realized, as long as he is not independent of the misconception of identifying with his body, which is nothing but a reflection of the original body and senses, he cannot be relieved of the conception of duality, which is epitomized by the duality between man and woman. Thus, there is every chance that he will fall down because his intelligence is bewildered. All the rules and regulations apply equally to the householder and the sannyasi, the member of the renounced order of life. Grihastha, however, is given permission by the spiritual master to indulge in sex during a period favorable for procreation. Brahmacharis or grihasthas who have taken the vow of celibacy as described above should not indulge in the following: applying powder or ointment to the eyes, massaging the head with oil, massaging the body with the hands, seeing a woman or painting a woman's picture, eating meat, drinking wine, decorating the body with flower garlands, smearing scented ointment on the body, or decorating the body with ointments. These they should give up. According to the rules and regulations mentioned above, one who is twice born, namely a Brahmana, Kshatriya, or Vaishya, should reside in the Gurukul under the care of the spiritual master. There he should study and learn all the Vedic literatures along with their supplements and the Upanishads. According to his ability and power to study, if possible, the student or disciple should reward the spiritual master with the remuneration of spiritual master requests, and then, following the master's order, the disciple should leave and accept one of the other ashrams, namely the Grihastha ashram, Vanaprastha ashram, or Sannyas ashram, as he desires. One should realize that in the fire, the spiritual master in oneself and in all living One should realize that in the fire, in the spiritual master, in oneself, and in all living entities, in all circumstances and conditions, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, has simultaneously entered and not entered. He is situated externally and internally as the full controller of everything. By practicing in this way, one be in the Brahmachari ashram, Grihastha ashram, Vanaprastha ashram, or Sannyas ashram, one must always realize the all-pervading presence of the Supreme Lord, for in this way it is possible to understand the absolute truth. O King, I shall now describe the qualifications for a Vanaprast, one who has retired from family life. By rigidly following the rules and regulations of the Vanaprast, one can easily be elevated to the upper planetary systems known as Maharloka. A person in Vanaprast life should not eat grains grown by tilling of the fields. He should also not eat grains that have been grown without tilling of the field, but are not fully ripe. Nor should a Vanaprost eat grains cooked in fire. Indeed, he should eat only fruit ripened by the sunshine. A Vanaprost should prepare cakes to be offered in sacrifice, and from fruits and grains grown naturally in the forest. When he obtains some new grains, he should give up his old stock of grains. A Vanaprost should prepare a thatched cottage or take shelter of a cage in a mountain, only to keep the sacred fire. But he should personally practice enduring snowfall, wind, fire, rain, and the shining of the sun. The Vanaprost should wear matted locks of hair on his head and let his body hair, nails, and mustache grow. He should not cleanse his body of dirt. He should keep a water pot, deerskin, and rod, wear the bark of a tree as a covering, and use garments colored like fire. Being very thoughtful, a Vanaprost should remain in the forest for 12 years, 8 years, 4 years, 2 years, or at least 1 year. He should behave in such a way that he will not be disturbed or troubled by too much austerity. When because of disease or old age one is unable to perform his prescribed duties for advancement in spiritual consciousness or study the Vedas, he should practice fasting, not taking any food. He should properly place the fire element in the own self, and in this way give up bodily affinity, by which one thinks the body to be oneself or one's own. One should gradually merge the material body into the 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, and sky. A sober, self-realized person who has full knowledge should merge the various parts of the body in their original sources. The holes in the body are caused by the sky. The process of breathing is caused by the air. The heat of the body is caused by fire and semen. Blood and mucus are caused by water. The hard substances like skin, muscle, and bone are caused by earth. In this way, all the constituents of the body are caused by various elements, and they should be merged again into those elements. Thereafter, the object of speech, along with the sense of speech, the tongue, should be bestowed upon fire. Craftsmanship and the 2 hands should be given up to the demigod Indra. The power of movement and the legs should be given to Lord Vishnu. Sensual pleasure, along with the genitals, should be bestowed upon Prajapati. The rectum, with the power of evacuation, should be bestowed in its proper place onto Mrityu. The oral instrument, along with sound vibration, should be given to the deities presiding over the directions. The instruments of touch, along with the sense objects of touch, should be given to Vayu. Form, with the power of sight, should be bestowed upon the sun. The tongue, along with the demigod Varuna, should be bestowed upon water. And the power of smell, along with the 2 Ashvini Kumara demigods, should be bestowed upon the earth. The mind, along with all material desires, should be merged in the moon demigod. All the subject matters of intelligence, along with the intelligence itself, should be placed in Lord Brahma. False ego, which is under the influence of the material body under the material modes of nature, and which induces one to think, I am this material body, and everything connected with this body is mine, should be merged along with the material activities in Rudra, the predominating deity of false ego. Material consciousness, along with the goal of thought, should be merged in the individual living being, and the demigods acting under the modes of material nature should be merged along with the perverted living being into the supreme being. The earth should be merged in water, water in the brightness of the sun, this brightness into the air, and air into the sky, and sky into the false ego into the total material energy, the material energy into the unmanifested ingredients, the pradhana feature of the material energy, and at last the ingredient feature of material manifestation into the supersoul. When all the material designations have thus merged into their respective material elements, the living beings who are all ultimately completely spiritual, being one in quality with the Supreme Being, should cease from material existence, as flames cease when the wood in which they are burning is consumed. When the material body is returned to its various material elements, only the spiritual being remains. This spiritual being is Brahman and is equal in quality with Parabrahman. Thus end Chapter 12, The Perfect Society, 4 Spiritual Classes. Canto 7, Chapter 13, The Behavior of a Perfect Person. Sri Narada Muni said, "A person able to cultivate spiritual knowledge should renounce all material connections, and merely keeping the body inhabitable, he should travel from one place to another, passing only one night in each village. In this way, without dependence in regard to the needs of the body, the sannyas should travel all over the world. A person in the renounced order of life may try to avoid even a dress to cover himself. If he wears anything at all, it should be only a loincloth. And when there is no necessity, a sannyas should not even accept a danda. A sannyasi should avoid carrying anything but a danda and a kamandalu. The sannyasi, completely satisfied in the self, should live on alms begged from door to door. Not being dependent on any person or any place, he should always be a friendly well-wisher to all living beings, and should be peaceful, unalloyed devotee of Narayana. In this way, he should move from one place to another. The sannyasi should always try to see the Supreme pervading everything, and see everything, including this universe, resting on the Supreme. During unconsciousness and consciousness, and between the two, he should try to understand the self and be fully situated in the self. In this way, he should realize that the conditional and liberated stages of life are only illusory and not actually factual. With such a higher understanding, he should see only the absolute truth pervading everything. Since the material body is sure to be vanquished in the duration of one's life, the duration of one's life is not fixed. Neither death nor life is to be praised. Rather, one should observe the eternal time factor in which the living entity manifests himself and disappears. Literature that is useless, a useless waste of time, in other words, literature without spiritual benefit, should be rejected. One should not become a professional teacher as a means of earning one's livelihood, nor should one indulge in arguments and counter-arguments, nor should one take shelter of any cause or faction. A sannyasi must not present allurements of material benefits to gather many disciples, nor should he unnecessarily read many books or give discourses as a means of livelihood. He must never attempt to increase material opulences unnecessarily. A peaceful, equipoised person who is factually advanced in spiritual consciousness does not need to accept the symbols of a sannyasi, such as the tridanda and the kamandalu. According to necessity, he may sometimes accept those symbols and sometimes reject them. Although a saintly person may not expose himself to the vision of human society, by his behavior his purpose is disclosed. To human society he should present himself like a restless child, and although he is a greatest thoughtful orator, he should present himself like a dumb man. As a historical example of this, learned sages recite the story of the ancient discussion between Prahlad Maharaj and a great saintly person who was feeding himself like a python. Prahlad Maharaj, the most dear servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, once went out touring the universe with some of his confidential associates just to study the nature of saintly persons. Thus he arrived at the bank of the Kaveri, where there was a mountain known as Saya. There he found a great saintly person who was lying on the ground, covered with dirt and dust, but who was deeply spiritually advanced. Neither by the Neither by that saintly person's activities, by his bodily features, by his words, nor by the symptoms of his varnashram status could people understand whether he was the same person they had known. The advanced devotee, Prahlad Maharaj, duly worshipped and offered obeisances to the saintly person who had adopted a python's means of livelihood. After thus worshipping the saintly person and touching his own head to the saint's lotus feet, Prahlad Maharaj, in order to understand him, inquired very submissively as follows. Seeing the saintly person to be quite fat, Prahlad Maharaj said, "My dear sir, you undergo no endeavor to earn your livelihood, but you have a stout body, exactly like that of a materialistic enjoyer. I know that if one is very rich and has nothing to do, he becomes extremely fat by eating and sleeping and performing no work. O Brahmana, fully in knowledge of transcendence, you have nothing to do, and therefore you are lying down. It is also understood that you have no money for sense enjoyment. How then has your body become so fat? Under the circumstances, if you do not consider my question impudent, kindly explain how this has happened. Your honor appears learned, expert, and intelligent in every way. How can you speak? You can speak very well, saying things that are pleasing to the heart. You see that people in general are engaged in fruitive activities, yet you are lying here inactive." Narada Muni continued, "When the saintly person was thus questioned by Prahlad Maharaj, the king of the Daityas, he was captivated by this shower of nectarian words, and he replied to the inquisitiveness of Prahlad Maharaj with a smiling face. The saintly Brahmana said, O best of the Asuras, Prahlad Maharaj, who are recognized by advanced and civilized men, you are aware of the different stages of life because your inherent transcendental eyes with which you can see a man's character, and thus know clearly the results of acceptance and rejection of things as they are. Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is full of all opulences, is predominant within the core of your heart because of your being a pure devotee. He always drives away all darkness of ignorance, as the sun drives away the darkness of the universe. My dear king, although you know everything, you have posed some questions which I shall try to answer according to what I have learned by hearing from authorities. I cannot remain silent in this regard, for a personality like you is just fit to be spoken to by one who desires self-purification. Because of insatiable material desires, I was being carried away by the waves of material nature's laws, and thus I was engaging in different activities, struggling for existence in various forms of life. In the course of the evolutionary process, which is caused by fruitive activities due to undesirable material sense gratification, I have received this human form of life, which can lead to the heavenly planets, to liberation, to the lower species, or to rebirth among human beings. In this human form of life, a man and a woman unite for the sensual pleasure of sex, but by actual experience we have observed that none of them are happy. Therefore, seeing the contrary results, I have stopped taking part in materialistic activities. The actual form of life for the living entity is one of spiritual happiness, which is real happiness. The happiness can be achieved only when one stops all materialistic activities. Material sense enjoyment is simply imagination. Therefore, considering this subject matter, I have ceased from all material activities and am lying down here. In this way, the conditioned soul living within the body forgets his self-interest because he identifies himself with the body. Because the body is material, his natural tendency is to be attracted by the varieties of the material world. Thus, the living entity suffers the miseries of material existence. Just as a deer, because of ignorance, cannot see the water within the well covered by grass, but runs after water elsewhere, the living entity covered by the material body does not see the happiness within himself, but runs after happiness in the material world. The living entity tries to achieve happiness and rid himself of the causes of distress, but because of the various bodies of the living entities are under the full control of the material nature, all his plans in different bodies, one after another, are ultimately baffled. Materialistic activities are always mixed with three kinds of miserable conditions: the adhyatmika, adidaivika, and the adibhautika. Therefore, even if one achieves some success by performing such activities, what is the benefit of this success? One is subjected to birth, death, old age, disease, and the reactions of his fruitive activities. The Brahmana continued, I am actually seeing how a rich man, who is a victim of his senses, is very greedy to accumulate wealth, and therefore suffers insomnia due to fear from all sides, despite his wealth and opulence. Those who are considered materially powerful and who are rich are always full of anxieties because of governmental laws, thieves and rogues, enemies, family members, animals, birds, persons seeking charity, the inevitable time factor, and even their own selves. Thus they are invariably afraid. Those in human society who are intelligent should give up the original cause of lamentation, illusion, fear, anger, attachment, poverty, and unnecessary labor. The original cause of all these is the desire for unnecessary prestige and money. The bee and the python are two excellent spiritual masters who give us exemplary instructions regarding how to be satisfied by collecting only a little and how to stay in one place and not move. From the bumblebee I have learned to be unattached to unaccumulating money, for although money is as good as honey, anyone can kill its owner and take it away. I do not endeavor to get anything, but I am satisfied with whatever is achieved in its own way. But if I do not get anything, I am patient and unagitated like a python and lie down in this way for many days. Sometimes I eat a very small quantity, and sometimes a great quantity. Sometimes the food is very palatable, and sometimes it is stale. Sometimes prasad is offered with great respect, and sometimes food is given neglectfully. Sometimes I eat during the day, and sometimes at night. Thus I eat what is easily available. To cover my body, I use whatever is available, whether it be linen, silk, cotton, bark, or deerskin, according to my destiny, and I am fully satisfied and unagitated. Sometimes I lie on the surface of the earth, sometimes on leaves, grass, or stone, sometimes on a pile of ashes, or sometimes by the will of others, in a place on a first-class bed with pillows. O my Lord, sometimes I bathe myself very nicely, smear sandalwood pulp all over my body, put on a flower garland, and dress in fine garments and ornaments. Then I travel like a king on the back of an elephant, or on a chariot or horse. Sometimes, however, I travel naked like a person haunted by a ghost. Different people are of different mentalities. Therefore, it is not my business either to praise them or to blaspheme them. I only desire their welfare, hoping that they will agree to become one with the Supersoul, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. The mental concoction of discrimination between good and bad should be accepted as one unit and then invested in the mind, which should then be invested in the false ego. The false ego should be invested in the total material energy. This is the process of fighting false discrimination. A learned, thoughtful person must realize that the material existence is illusion. This is possible only by self-realization. A self-realized person who has actually seen the truth should retire from all material activities, being situated in self-realization. Prahlad Maharaj, you are certainly a self-realized soul and a devotee of the Supreme Lord. You do not care for public opinion or so-called scriptures. For this reason, I have described to you, without hesitation, the history of my self-realization. Narada Muni continued. After Prahlad Maharaj, the king of the demons, heard these instructions from the saint, he understood the occupational duties of a perfect person, Paramahamsa. Thus, he duly worshipped the saint, took his permission, and left for his own home. Thus end Chapter 13, The Behavior of a Perfect Person. Chapter 14. Ideal Family Life. Maharaj Yudhisthira inquired from Narada Muni, O my lord, O great sage, kindly explain how we who are staying at home without knowledge of the goal of life may also easily obtain liberation according to the instructions of the Vedas. Narada Muni replied, My dear king, those who stay at home as householders must act to earn their livelihood, and instead of trying to enjoy the results of their work themselves, they should offer these results to Krishna, Vasudeva. How to satisfy Vasudeva? How to satisfy Vasudeva in this life can be perfectly understood through the association of great devotees of the Lord. A grihasta must associate again and again with saintly persons, and with great respect he must hear the nectar of the activities of the Supreme Lord and his incarnations, as these activities are described in the Srimad Bhagavatam and other Puranas. Thus one should gradually become detached from affection for his wife and children, exactly like a man awakening from a dream. While working to earn his livelihood, as much as necessary to maintain the body and soul together, one who is actually learned should live in human society unattached to family affairs, although externally appearing very much attached. An intelligent man in human society should make his own program of activities very simple. If there are suggestions from his friends, children, parents, brothers, or anyone else, he should externally agree, saying, yes, that is all right. But internally he should be determined not to create a cumbersome life in which the purpose of life will not be fulfilled. The natural products created by the Supreme Personality of Godhead should be utilized to maintain the bodies and souls of all living entities. The necessities of life are of three types: those produced from the sky, from rainfall, and from earth, from the mines and the seas or the fields, and from the atmosphere, that which is obtained suddenly and unexpectedly. One may claim proprietorship to as much wealth as required to maintain the body and soul together. But one who desires proprietorship over more than that must be considered a thief, and he deserves to be punished by the laws of nature. One should treat animals such as deer, camel, asses, monkeys, mice, snakes, birds, and flies exactly like one's own son. How little difference there actually is between children and those innocent animals. Even if one is a householder, rather than a brahmachari, a sannyasi, or a vanaprastha, one should not endeavor very hard for religiosity, economic development, or satisfaction of the senses. Even in householder life, one should be satisfied to maintain body and soul together with whatever is available with minimum endeavor. According to the place and time, and by the grace of the Lord, one should not engage oneself in ugra karma. Dogs, fallen persons, and untouchables, including chandalas, dog-eaters, should all be maintained with their proper necessities, which should be contributed by the householders. Even one's wife at home, with whom one is most intimately attached, should be offered the reception for guests and people in general. One so seriously considers one's wife to be his own that he sometimes kills himself or her or kills others, including even his parents or spiritual master or teachers. Therefore, if one can give up his attachment to such a wife, he conquers the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is never conquered by anyone. Through proper deliberation, one should give up attraction to his wife's body, because that body will ultimately be transformed into small insects, stool, or ashes. What is the value of this insignificant body? How much greater is the Supreme Being, who is all-pervading like the sky? An intelligent person should be satisfied with eating prasad offered to the Lord, or with performing the 5 different kinds of yajna, panchasuna. By such activities, one can give up attachment for the body and so-called proprietorship with reference to the body. When one is able to do this, he is firmly fixed in the position of a Mahatma. Every day, one should worship the Supreme Being who is situated in everyone's heart, and on this basis, one should separately worship the demigods, the saintly persons, ordinary human beings, and living entities, one's forefathers, and one's self. In this way, one is able to worship the Supreme Being in the core of everyone's heart. When one is enriched with wealth and knowledge, which are under his full control by means of which he can perform yajna or please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one must perform sacrifices, offering oblations to the fire according to the directions of the Shastras. In this way, one should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is the enjoyer of sacrificial offerings. Yet, although his lordship eats the oblations offered in the fire, my dear king, he is still more satisfied when nice food made of grains and ghee is offered to him through the mouths of qualified brahmanas. Therefore, my dear king, first offer prasad unto the brahmanas and the demigods, and after sumptuously feeding them, you may distribute prasad to other living entities according to your ability. In this way, you will be able to worship all living entities, or, in other words, the supreme living entity within every living entity. A brahmana who is sufficiently rich must offer oblations to the forefathers during the dark moon fortnight in the latter part of the month of Bhadra. Similarly, he should offer oblations to the relatives of the forefathers during the Mahalaya ceremonies in the month of Ashvina. One should perform the Shraddha ceremony on the Makara Sankranti, the day where the sun begins to move north. On the Karkata Sankranti, the day which the sun begins to move south, one should also perform this ceremony on the Mesha Sankranti day of the Tula Sankranti day. In the yoga named Vyatipata, on that day in which the 3 lunar titis are conjoined during an eclipse, or either the moon or the sun, on the 12th lunar day, and in the Shravanam Nakshatra, one should perform this ceremony on the Akshaya Tritiya day, on the 9th lunar day of the bright fortnight of the moon of Kartik. On the 4 Ashtakas in the winter season and cool season, on the 7th lunar day of the bright fortnight of the month of Magha, during the conjunction of the Magha Nakshatra and the full moon day, and on the days when the moon is completely full, or not quite completely full, and these days are conjoined with the nakshatras from which the names of certain months are derived. One should also perform the Shraddha ceremony on the 12th lunar day, when it is in conjunction with any of the nakshatras named Anuradha, Shravana, Uttara Phalguni, Uttarashada, Uttarabhadrapada. Again, one should perform this ceremony when the 11th lunar day is the conjunction with either Uttara Phalguni, Uttarashada, or Uttarabhadrapada. Finally, one should perform this ceremony on days conjoined with one's own birth star, Janma Nakshatra, or with Shravana Nakshatra. All of these seasonal times are considered extremely auspicious for the humanity. At such times, one should perform all auspicious activities, for by such activities a human being attains success in his short duration of life. During these periods of seasonal change, if one bathes in the Ganges, in the Yamuna, or in other sacred places, if one chants, offers fire sacrifice, or executes vows, or if one worships the Supreme Lord, the Brahmanas, the forefathers, the demigods, and the living entities in general, whatever he gives in charity yields a permanently beneficial result. O King Yudhishthira, at the time prescribed for reformatory ritualistic ceremonies for oneself, one's wife, or one's children, or during funeral ceremonies and annual death ceremonies, one is to perform the auspicious ceremonies mentioned above in order to flourish in fruitive activities. Narada Muni continued, Now I shall describe the places where religious performance may be well executed. Any place where the Vaishnav is available is an excellent place for all auspicious activities. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the support of this entire cosmic manifestation, with all its moving and non-moving living entities. And the temple where the deity of the Lord is installed is a most sacred place. Furthermore, places where learned Brahmanas observe Vedic principles by means of austerity, education, and mercy are also most auspicious and sacred. Auspicious indeed are the places where there is a temple of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, in which he is duly worshipped, and also the places where the flow of the celebrated sacred rivers mentioned in the Puranas, the supplementary Vedic literatures. Anything spiritual done there is certainly very effective. The sacred lakes like Pushkara and places where saintly persons live like Kurukshetra, Gaya, Prayag, Ashrama, Naimisharanya, the banks of the Palgu River, Setubandha, Prabhas, Dwarka, Varanasi, Mathura, Pampa, Bindu Sarovara, Badrak Ashram, Narayana Ashram, the places where the Nanda River flows, the places where Lord Ramachandra and Mother Sita took shelter, such as Chitrakuta, and also the hilly tracts of land known as Mahendra and the Malay. All these places are considered most pious and sacred. Similarly, places outside of India where there are centers of Krishna consciousness movements and where Radha Krishna deities are worshipped must all be visited and worshipped by those who want to be spiritually advanced. One who intends to advance in spiritual life may visit all these places and perform ritualistic ceremonies to get the results of 1,000 times better than the results of the same activities performed in any other place. O King of the Earth, it has been decided by expert learned scholars that only the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, in whom all that is moving or non-moving within this universe is resting and from whom everything is coming, is the best person to whom everything must be given. O King Yudhishthira, the demigods, many great sages and saints, including even the 4 sons of Lord Brahma and I myself, were present at your Rajasuya sacrificial ceremony. But when there was a question of who should be the first person worshipped, everyone decided upon Lord Krishna, the Supreme Person. The entire universe, which is full of living entities, is like a tree whose root is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Achyuta, Krishna. Therefore, simply by worshipping Krishna, one can worship all living entities. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has created many residential places like the bodies of human beings, animals, birds, and saints and demigods. In all of these innumerable bodily forms, the Lord resides with the living being as the Paramatma. Thus he is known as the Purusha Avatar. O King Yudhishthira, the super soul in every body gives intelligence to the individual soul according to his capacity for understanding. Therefore, the super soul is the chief within the body. The super soul is manifested to the individual soul according to the individual's comparative development of knowledge, austerity, penance, and so on. My dear king, when great sages and saintly persons saw mutually disrespectful dealings at the beginning of Treta Yuga, deity worship in the temple was introduced with all paraphernalia. Sometimes a neophyte devotee offers all the paraphernalia for worshiping the Lord, and he factually worships the Lord as the deity. But because he is envious of the authorized devotees of the Lord Vishnu, the Lord is never satisfied with his devotional service. My dear king, of all persons, a qualified Brahmana must be accepted as the best within this material world, because such a Brahmana, by practicing austerity, Vedic studies, and satisfaction becomes the counterpart body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. My dear King Yudhishthira, the Brahmanas, especially those engaged in preaching the glories of the Lord throughout the entire world, are recognized and worshipped by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the heart and soul of all creation. The Brahmanas, by their preaching, sanctify the 3 worlds with their dust of their lotus feet, and thus they are worshipable even for Krishna. Thus in chapter 14, Ideal Family Life of the 7th Canto, chapter 15, Instructions for Civilized Human Beings. Narada Muni continued, My dear king, some Brahmanas are very much attached to fruitive activities, some are attracted to austerities and penances, and still others study the Vedic literature, whereas some, although very few, cultivate knowledge and practice different yogas, especially bhakti yoga. A person desiring liberation for his forefathers or himself should give charity to a Brahmana who adheres to impersonal monism, jnana nishta. In the absence of such an advanced Brahmana, charity may be given to a Brahmana addicted to fruitive activities, karmakanda. During the period for offering oblations to the demigods, one should invite only 2 Brahmanas, and while offering oblations to the forefathers, one may invite 3 Brahmanas, or in either case, only 1 Brahmana will suffice. Even though one is very opulent, he should not endeavor to invite more Brahmanas or make various expensive arrangements on those occasions. If one arranges to feed many Brahmanas or relatives during the Shraddha ceremony, there will be discrepancies in the time, place, respectability, and ingredients, the person to be worshipped, and the method of offering worship. When one gets the opportunity of a suitable, auspicious time and place, one should with love offer food prepared with ghee to the deity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then offer the prasad to a suitable person, a Vaishnav or Brahmana. Thus will be the cause of everlasting prosperity. One should offer prasad to the demigods, the saintly persons, one's forefathers, the people in general, one's family members, one's relatives, and one's friends, seeing them all as devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A person fully aware of religious principles should never offer anything like meat, eggs, or fish in the Shraddha ceremony. And even if one is a Kshatriya, he himself should not eat such things. When suitable food is prepared with ghee, he is offered to saintly persons. The function is pleasing to the forefathers and the Supreme Lord, who are never pleased when animals are killed in the name of sacrifice. Persons who want to advance in superior religion are advised to give up all envy of other living entities, whether in relationship to the body, words, or mind. There is no religion superior to this. Because of an awakening of the spiritual knowledge, those who are intelligent in regard to sacrifice, who are actually aware of religious principles, and who are free from material desires, control the self in the fire of spiritual knowledge, or knowledge of the absolute truth. They may give up the process of ritualistic ceremonies. Upon seeing the person engaged in performing the sacrifice, animals meant to be sacrificed are extremely afraid, thinking this merciless performer of sacrifices, being ignorant of the purpose of sacrifices, and being most satisfied by killing others, will surely kill us. Therefore, day by day, one who is actually aware of religious principles and is not heinously envious of poor animals should happily perform daily sacrifices, and those for certain occasions with whatever food is available, easily by the grace of the Lord. There are 5 branches of irreligion, appropriately known as irreligion, vidharma, religious principles for which one is unfit, paradharma, pretentious religion, abhasa, analogical religion, upadharma, and cheating religion, chaladharma. One who is aware of real religious life must abandon these 5 as irreligious. Religious principles that obstruct one from following his own religion are called vidharma. Religious principles introduced by others are called paradharma, and a new type of religion created by one who is falsely proud and who opposes the principles of the Vedas is called upadharma, and interpretation by one's juggler of words is called chaladharma. A pretentious religious system manufactured by one who willfully neglects the prescribed duties of his order of life is called abhas, a dim reflection of false similarity. But if one performs the prescribed duties for his particular ashram or varna, why are they not sufficient to mitigate all material distress? Even if a man is poor, he should not endeavor to improve his economic condition just to maintain his body and soul together, or to become a famous religionist. Just as a great python although lying in one place, not endeavoring for its livelihood, gets the food it needs to maintain body and soul. One who is desireless also obtains his livelihood without endeavor. One who is content and satisfied, and who links his activities with the Supreme Personality of Godhead residing in everyone's heart, enjoys transcendental happiness without endeavoring for his livelihood. Where is such happiness for the materialistic man who is impelled by lust and greed, and who therefore wanders in all directions with a desire to accumulate wealth? For a person who has suitable shoes on his feet, there is no danger even when he walks on pebbles and thorns. For him, everything is auspicious. Similarly, for one who is always self-satisfied and there is no distress, indeed, he feels happiness everywhere. My dear king, a self-satisfied person can be happy even with only drinking water. However, one who is driven by the senses, especially by the tongue and the genitals, must accept the position of a household dog to satisfy his senses. Because of greed, for the sake of the senses, the spiritual strength, education, austerity, and reputation of the devotee or brahmana who is not self-satisfied dwindle, and his knowledge gradually vanishes. Strong bodily desires and needs of a person disturbed by hunger and thirst are certainly satisfied when he eats. Similarly, if one becomes very angry, that anger is satisfied by chastisement and its reaction. But as for greed, even if a greedy person has conquered all the directions of the world or has enjoyed everything in this world, still he will not be satisfied. O King Yudhisthira, many persons with varied experience, many legal advisors, many learned scholars, and many persons eligible to become presidents of learned assemblies fall down into hellish life because of not being satisfied with their positions. By making plans with determination, one should give up lusty desires for sense gratification. Similarly, by giving up envy, one should conquer anger. By discussing the disadvantages of accumulating wealth, one should give up greed. By discussing the truth, one should give up fear. By discussing spiritual knowledge, one can conquer limitation and illusion. By serving a great devotee, one can become prideless. By keeping silent, one can avoid obstacles on the path of mystic yoga, and simply by stopping sense gratification, one can conquer envy. By good behavior and freedom from envy, one should counteract sufferings due to other living entities. By meditation in trance, one should counteract sufferings due to providence, and by practicing hatha yoga, pranayama, and so forth, one should conquer sufferings due to the body and the mind. Similarly, by developing the mode of goodness, especially in regard to eating, one should counter sleep. One must conquer the modes of passion and ignorance by developing the mode of goodness, and then one must become detached from the mode of goodness by promoting oneself to the platform of Shuddhasattva. All this can be automatically done if one engages in the service of the spiritual master with faith and devotion. In this way, one can conquer the influence of the modes of the nature. The spiritual master should be considered to be directly the Supreme Lord because he gives transcendental knowledge for enlightenment. Consequently, for one who attains the material conception that the spiritual master is an ordinary human being, everything is frustrated. His enlightenment and his Vedic studies and knowledge are like the bathing of an elephant. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, is the master of all other living entities and of the material nature. His lotus feet are sought and worshipped by great saintly persons like Vyas. Nonetheless, there are fools who consider Lord Krishna an ordinary human being. Ritualistic ceremonies, regulative principles, austerity, and the practice of yoga are all meant to control the senses and the mind. But even after one is able to control the senses and mind, if he does not come to the point of meditation upon the Supreme Lord, all such activities are simply a labor in frustration. As professional activities or business profits cannot help one in spiritual advancement, but are the source of material entanglement in the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. The Vedic ritualistic ceremonies cannot help anyone who is not a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One who desires to conquer the mind must leave the company of his family and live in a solitary place, free from the contaminated association. To maintain the body and soul together, he should beg as much as he needs for the bare necessities of life. My dear king, in a sacred and holy place of pilgrimage, one should select a place in which to perform yoga. The place must be level and not too high or low. There, one should sit very comfortably, being steady and equipoised, keeping his body straight, and thus begin chanting the Vedic pranava. While continuously staring at the tip of the nose, a learned yogi practices the breathing exercises through the technical means known as puraka, kumbhaka, and rachaka, controlling inhalation and exhalation, and then stopping them both. In this way, the yogi restricts his mind from material attachment and gives up mental desires. As soon as the mind, being defeated by lusty desires, drifts towards feelings of sense gratification, the yogi should immediately bring it back and arrest it within the core of his heart. When the yogi regularly practices in this way, in a short time his heart becomes fixed and free from disturbance like a fire without flames or smoke. When one's consciousness is uncontaminated by material lusty desires, it becomes calm and peaceful in all activities. For one is situated in eternal blissful life. Once situated on that platform, one does not return to materialistic activities. One who accepts the sannyas or order gives up the three principles of materialistic activities in which one indulges in the field of household life, namely religion, economic development, and sense gratification. One who first accepts the sannyas, but then returns to such materialistic activities, is to be called a vantashi, or one who eats his own vomit. He is indeed a shameless person. Sannyasis who first consider that the body is the subject of death when it will be transformed into stool, worms, or ashes, but who give importance to the body and glorify it as the self, are to be considered the greatest rascals. It is abominable for a person living in a grihastha ashram to give up the regulative principles, for a brahmachari not to follow brahmachari vows while living under the care of the guru, for a vanapras to live in a village and engage in so-called social activities, or for a sannyasi to be addicted to sense gratification. One who acts in this way is to be considered the lowest renegade. Such a pretender is bewildered by the external energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and one should either reject from him any position, or taking compassion upon him, teach him, if possible, to resume his original position. The human form of body is meant for understanding the self and the Supreme Self, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, both of whom are transcendently situated. If both of them can be understood when one is purified by advanced knowledge, for what reason and for whom does the foolish, greedy person maintain the body for sense gratification? The human form of body is meant for understanding the self and the Supreme Self, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, both of whom are transcendently situated. If both of them can be understood when one is purified by advanced knowledge, for what reason and for whom does the foolish greedy person maintain the body for sense gratification? Transcendentalists who are advanced in knowledge compare the body, which is made by the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to a chariot. The senses are like the horses, the mind, the master of the senses, is like the reins, and the objects of the senses are destinations. Intelligence is the chariot driver, and consciousness, which spreads throughout the body, is the cause of bondage in this material world. The 10 kinds of airs acting within the body are compared to the spokes of chariot wheels, and the top and bottom of the wheels itself are called religion and irreligion. The living entity in the bodily concepts of life is the owner of the chariot. The Vedic mantra Pranava is the bow, the pure living entity himself is the arrow, and the target is the Supreme Being. In the conditioned stage, one's conceptions of life are sometimes polluted by passion and ignorance, which are exhibited by attachment, hostility, greed, lamentation, illusion, fear, madness, false prestige, insults, fault-finding, deception, envy, intolerance, passion, bewilderment, hunger, and sleep. All of these are enemies. Sometimes one's conceptions are also polluted by goodness. As long as one has to accept a material body with its different parts and paraphernalia, which are not fully under one's control, one must have the lotus feet of his superiors, namely his spiritual master and the spiritual master's predecessors. By their mercy, one can sharpen the sword of knowledge, and with the power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, mercy, one must then conquer the enemies mentioned above. In this way, the devotee should be able to merge into his own transcendental bliss, and then he may give up his body and resume his spiritual identity. Otherwise, if one does not take shelter of Achyuta and Baladev, then the senses, acting as the horses, and the intelligence, acting as the driver, both being prone to material contamination, inattentively bring the body, which acts as a chariot, to the path of sense gratification. When one is thus attracted again by the rogues of Vishaya, eating, sleeping, and mating, the horses and the chariot driver are thrown into the blinding dark well of material existence, and one is again put into dangerous and extremely fearful situation of repeated birth and death. According to the Vedas, there are 2 kinds of activities, pravritti and nirvritti. Pravritti activities involve raising oneself from lower and to higher consciousness of materialistic life, whereas nirvritti means the cessation of material desire. Through pravritti activities, one suffers from material entanglement, but by nirvritti activities, one is purified and becomes fit to enjoy eternal blissful life. The ritualistic ceremonies and sacrifices known as Agnihotra, Dashara Yagya, Purnamasa Yagya, Chaturmasya Yagya, Pashu Yagya, and Soma Yagya are all symptomized by the killing of animals and the burning of many valuables, especially food grains, all for the fulfillment of material desires and the creation of anxiety. Performing such sacrifices, worshipping Vaishvadev, and performing the ceremony of Baliharana, which all supposedly constitute the goal of life, as well as constructing temples for demigods, building resting houses and gardens, digging wells for the distribution of water, establishes booths for the distribution of food, and performing activities for public welfare. These are all symptomized by attachment to material desires. My dear King Yudhisthira, when oblations of ghee and food grains like barley and sesame are offered in sacrifice, they turn into celestial smoke, which carries one to successfully higher planetary systems like that of the kingdom of Duma, Ratri, Krishna Paksha, Dakshinam, and ultimately the moon. Then, however, the performers of sacrifice descend again to the earth to become herbs, creepers, vegetables, and food grains. These are eaten by different living entities and turned into semen, which is injected into female bodies. Thus one takes birth again and again. A twice-born Brahmana, Dvija, gains his life by the grace of his parents through the process of purification known as Garbhodan. There are also other processes of purification until the end of life, when the funeral ceremony, Antyeshti Kriya, is performed. Thus, in due course, the qualified Brahmana becomes uninterested in materialistic activities and sacrifices, but he offers the sensual sacrifices in full knowledge into the working senses, which are only illuminated by the fire of knowledge. The mind is always agitated by waves of acceptance and rejection. Therefore, all the activities of the senses should be offered into the mind, which should be offered into one's words. Then one's words should be offered into the aggregate of all alphabets, which should be offered into the concise form Omkar. Omkara should be offered into that point Bindu, Bindu into the vibration of sound, and that vibration into the life air. Then the living entity, who is all that remains, should be placed in Brahman, the supreme. This is the process of sacrifice. On his path of ascent, the progressive living entity enters into different worlds of fire, sun, the day, the end of the day, the bright fortnight, the full moon, and the passing of the sun of the north, along with the presiding demigods. When he enters Brahmaloka, he enjoys life for many millions of years, and finally his material designation comes to an end. He then comes to a suitable, subtle designation, from which he attains the causal designation. Witnessing all previous states upon the annihilation of this causal state, he attains pure state, in which he identifies with the supersoul. In this way, the living entity becomes transcendental. This gradual process of elevation for self-realization is meant for those who are truly aware of the absolute truth. After repeated birth on this path, which is known as Devayana, one attains these consecutive stages. One who is completely free from all material desires, being situated in the self, need not traverse the path of repeated birth and death. Even though situated in a material body, one who is fully aware of the paths known as Pitrayana and Devayana, and who thus opens his eyes in terms of Vedic knowledge, is never bewildered in this material world. He who exists internally and externally, at the beginning and at the end of everything, and of all living beings, as that which is enjoyable, as that is the enjoyer of everything, superior and inferior, is the supreme truth. He always exists as knowledge and the object of knowledge, as express and the object of understanding, as darkness and as light. Thus he, the Supreme Lord, is everything. Although one may consider the reflection of the sun from a mirror to be false, it has its factual existence. Accordingly, to prove by speculative knowledge that there is no reality would be extremely difficult. In this world, there are 5 elements, namely earth, water, fire, air, and ether, but the body is not a reflection of them, nor a combination or a transformation of them, because the body and its ingredients are neither distinct nor amalgamated. All such theories are insubstantial. Because the body is formed of the 5 elements, it cannot exist without the subtle sense objects. Therefore, since the body is false, the sense objects are also naturally false or temporary. When a substance and its parts are separated, the acceptance of similarity between one and the other is called illusion. While dreaming, one creates a separation between the existence called wakefulness and sleep. It is in such a state of mind that the regulative principles of the scriptures, consisting of injunctions and prohibitions, are recommended. After considering the oneness of existence, activity and paraphernalia, and after realizing oneself to be different from all actions and reactions, the mental speculator Muni, according to his own realization, gives up the 3 states of wakefulness, dreaming, and sleep. When one understands that the results and cause are one and that duality is ultimately unreal, like the idea that the threads of cloth are different from the cloth itself, one reaches the conception of oneness called Bhavadavaita. My dear Yudhishthir, Partha, when all the activities one performs with his mind, words, and body are dedicated directly to the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one reaches oneness of activity called Kriya Dvaita. When the ultimate goal and interest of oneself, one's wife, one's children, one's relatives, and all other embodied living beings is one, this is called Drayadvaita, or oneness of interest. In normal conditions, in the absence of danger, O King Yudhishthir, a man should perform his prescribed activities according to the status of life with the things, endeavors, process, and living place that are not forbidden for him, and not by any other means. O King, one should perform his occupational duties according to these instructions, as well as the other instructions given in the Vedic literature. Just to remain a devotee of the Lord Krishna. Thus, even while at home, one will be able to reach the destination. O King Yudhishthir, because of your service to the Supreme Lord, all of you Pandavas defeated the great dangers posed by numerous kings and demigods. By serving the lotus feet of Krishna, you conquered the great enemies who were like elephants, and thus you collected ingredients for sacrifice. By his grace, may you be delivered from material involvement. Long, long ago, in another Mahakalpa, millennium of Brahma, I existed as Gandharva known as Upabharana. I was very respected by the other Gandharvas. I had a beautiful face and a pleasing, attractive bodily structure decorated with flower garlands and sandalwood bulb. I was most pleasing to the women of my city. Thus I was bewildered, always feeling lusty desires. Once there was a Sankirtan festival to glorify the Supreme Lord, and an assembly of demigods and the Gandharvas and Apsaras were invited by the Prajapatis to take part in it. Narada Muni continued, being invited to that festival, I also joined, and surrounded by women, I began musically singing the glories of the demigods. Because of this, the Prajapatis, the great demigods in charge of the affairs of the universe, forcefully cursed me with the words, because you have committed offense, may you immediately become a Shudra devoid of beauty. Although I took birth as a Shudra from the womb of a maidservant, I engaged in the service of Vaishnavas, who were well versed in Vedic knowledge. Consequently, in this life, I got the opportunity to take birth as the son of Lord Brahma. The process of chanting the holy name of the Lord is so powerful that by this chanting, even householders, grihastas, can very easily gain the ultimate results achieved by persons in the renounced order. Maharaj Yudhishthir, I have now explained to you that the process of religion. My dear Maharaj Yudhishthir, you Pandavas are so very fortunate in this world that many, many great saints who can purify all the planets of the universe come to your house just like ordinary visitors. Furthermore, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is living confidentially with you in your house just like your brother. How wonderful is it that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Parabrahman, Krishna, who is sought by great sages for the sake of liberation and transcendental bliss, is acting as your best well-wisher, your friend, your cousin, your heart and soul, your worshipful director, and your spiritual master. Here is now the same Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose true form cannot be understood even by such great personalities as Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. He is realized by devotees because of their unflinching surrender. May that same Personality of Godhead, who is the maintainer of his devotees, and who is worshipped by silence, by devotional service, by cessation of material activities, be pleased with us. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, Maharaj Yudhisthira, the best member of the Bharat dynasty, thus learned everything from the descriptions of Narada Muni. After hearing these instructions, he felt great pleasure from within his heart, and in great ecstasy, love, and affection, he worshipped Lord Krishna. Narada Muni, being worshipped by Krishna and Maharaj Yudhisthira, bade them farewell and went away. Maharaj Yudhisthira, having heard that Krishna, his cousin, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was struck with wonder. On all the planets within the universe, the varieties of living entities, moving and non-moving, including the demigods, were all generated from the daughters of Maharaj Daksha. I have now described them and their different dynasties. Thus ends Chapter 15 of the 7th Canto, Instructions for Civilized Human Beings. Thus ends Canto 7, The Science of God. Next, we read Canto 8, The Withdrawal of the Cosmic Creation. Chapter 1, The Manus, Administrators of the Universe. King Parikshit said, O my lord, my spiritual master, now I have fully heard from your grace about the dynasty of the Swayambhuva Manu, but there are also other Manus, and I want to hear about their dynasties. Kindly describe them to us. O learned Brahmana, Shukadeva Goswami, the great learned persons, who are completely intelligent, describe the activities and appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead during the various manvantars. We are very eager to hear about these narrations. Kindly describe them. O learned Brahmana, kindly describe to us whatever activities the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who created this cosmic manifestation, has performed in the past manvantars, is performing at the present, and will perform in the future manvantars. Shukadeva Goswami said, in the present kalpa there have already been 6 Manus. I have described to you Swayambhuva Manu and the appearance of many demigods in this kalpa of Brahma. Swayambhuva Manu is the first Manu. Swayambhuva Manu had 2 daughters named Akuti and Devahuti. From their wombs the Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared as 2 sons named Yajna Murti and Kapila, respectively. These sons were entrusted with preaching about religion and knowledge. O best of the Kurus, I have already described in the 3rd canto the activities of Kapila, son of Devahuti. Now I shall describe the activities of Yagyapati, the son of Akuti. Swayambhuva Manu, the husband of Satarupa, was by nature not at all attached to enjoyment of the senses. Thus he gave up his kingdom of sense enjoyment and entered the forest with his wife to practice austerities. O sign of Bharta, after Swayambhuva Manu had thus entered the forest with his wife, he stood on one leg on the bank of the river Sunanda, and in this way, with only one leg touching the earth, he performed great austerities. He spoke as follows. Lord Manu said, the Supreme Living Being has created this material world of annihilation. It is not that he was created by this material world. When everything is silent, the Supreme Being stays awake as a witness. The living entity does not know him, but he knows everything. Within this universe, the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his spiritual supersoul feature is present everywhere, wherever there are animate or inanimate beings. Therefore, one should accept only that which is allotted to him. One should not desire to infringe upon the property of others. Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead consistently watches the activities of the world, no one sees him. However, one should not think that because no one sees him, he does not see, for his power to see is never diminished. Therefore, everyone should worship the Supersoul, who always stays with the individual soul as a friend. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has no beginning, no end, no middle, nor does he belong to the particular person or nation. He has no inside or outside. The dualities found within this material world, such as beginning and end, mine and theirs, are all absent from the personality of the Supreme Lord. The universe which emanates from him is another feature of the Lord. Therefore, the Supreme Lord is the ultimate truth, and he is complete in greatness. This entire cosmic manifestation is the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, who has millions of names and unlimited potencies. He is self-effulgent, unborn, and changeless. He is the beginning of everything, but he has no beginning. Because he has created this cosmic manifestation by his external energy, the universe appears to be created, maintained, and annihilated by him. Nonetheless, he remains inactive in his spiritual energy and is untouched by the activities of the material energy. Therefore, to enable people to reach the stage of activities that are not tinged by fruitive results, great saints first engage people in fruitive activities. For unless one begins by performing activities as recommended in the Shastras, one cannot reach the stage of liberation or activities that produce no reactions. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is full in opulence by his own gain, yet he acts as the creator, maintainer, and annihilator of this material world. In spite of acting in that way, he is never entangled. Hence, devotees who follow in his footsteps are also never entangled. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, works just like an ordinary human being, yet he does not desire to enjoy the fruits of work. He is full in knowledge, free from material desire and diversions, and completely independent. As the supreme teacher of human society, he teaches his own way of activities, and thus he inaugurates the real path of religion. I request everyone to follow him. Shukadev Goswami continued, Swayambhuva Manu was thus in a trance, chanting the mantras of Vedic instruction, known as the Upanishads. Upon seeing him, the Rakshasas and Asuras, being very hungry, wanted to devour him. Therefore, they ran after him with great speed. The Supreme Lord Vishnu, who sits in everyone's heart, appearing as Yagyapati, observed that the Rakshasas and demons were going to devour Swayambhuva Manu. Thus the Lord, accompanied by his sons, named the Yamas, and by all other demigods, killed the demons and Rakshasas. He then took the post of Indra and began to rule the heavenly kingdom. The son of Agni, named Svarochisha, became the second Manu. His several sons were headed by Dyumat, Sushena, and Rochishmat. During their reign of Svarochisha, the post of Indra was assumed by Rochana, the son of Yagya. Tushita and others became principal demigods, and Urja, Stamba, and others became the 7 saints. All of them are faithful devotees of the Lord. Vedashira was a very celebrated rishi from the womb of his wife, who was named Tushita, came the avatar named Vibhu. Vibhu remained a brahmachari and never married throughout his life. From him, 88,000 other saintly persons took lessons on self-control, austerity, and similar behavior. O king, the third Manu, Uttama, was a son of King Priyavrata. Among the sons of this Manu were Pavana, Srinjai, and Yagnihotra. During the reign of the third Manu, Pramada and other sons of Vashishta became the 7 sages. The Satyas, Vedashrutas, and Bhadras became demigods, and Satyajit was selected to be Indra, the king of heaven. In this Manvantar, the Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared in the womb of Sundrita, who was the wife of Dharma, the demigod in charge of religion. The Lord was celebrated as Satyasena, and he appeared with other demigods known as the Satyavratas. Satyasena, along with his friend Satyajit, who was the king of heaven, Indra killed all the untruthful, impious, and misbehaved Yakshasas and Rakshasas and ghostly living entities who gave pains to other living beings. The brother of the third Manu, Uttama, was celebrated by the name Tamasa and became the fourth Manu. Tamasa had 10 sons headed by Prithu, Kyati, Nara, and Ketu. During the reign of Tamasa, Manu among the demigods were the Satyakas, Haris, and Viras. The heavenly kingdom, Indra, was Trishika. The sages in Saptrashi Dham were headed by Jyotir Dhamma. O king, the Tamasa Manvatar, the sons of Vidhriti, who were known as the Vaidritis, also became demigods, since in course of time the Vedic authority was lost. Those demigods by their own powers protected the Vedic authority. Also in this Manvantar, the Supreme Lord Vishnu took birth from the womb of Harini, the wife of Harimeda, and he was known as Hari. Hari saved the devotee Gajendra, the king of the elephants, from the mouth of a crocodile. King Parikshit said, My lord Badarayani, we wish to hear from you in detail how the king of the elephants, when attacked by a crocodile, was delivered by Hari. Any literature or narration in which the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Uttama Shloka, is described and glorified is certainly great, pure, glorious, auspicious, and all good. Sri Shuta Goswami said, O Brahmanas, when Parikshit Maharaj, who was awaiting impending death, thus requested Shukadev Goswami to speak, Shukadev Goswami, encouraged by the king's words, offered respect to the king and spoke with great pleasure in the assembly of the sages, who desired to hear him. Shukadev Goswami said, thus in Chapter 3, the Manus, administrators of the universe. Chapter 2, the elephant Gajendra's crisis. Shukadev Goswami said, My dear king, there is a very large mountain called Trikuta, that it is 10,000 yojanas, 80,000 miles high. Being surrounded by the ocean of milk, it is very beautifully situated. The length and breadth of the mountain are of the same measurement, 80,000 miles. Its 3 principal peaks, which are made of iron, silver, and gold, beautify all directions and the sky. The mountain also has other peaks, which are full of jewels and minerals, and are decorated with nice trees, creepers, and shrubs. The sounds of the waterfalls on the mountain create a pleasing vibration. In this way, the mountain stands, increasing the beauty of all directions. The ground at the foot of the mountain is always washed by waves of milk that produce emeralds all around in 8 directions, north, south, east, west, and the directions midway between them. The inhabitants of the higher planets, the Siddhas, Charanas, Gandharvas, Vidyadharas, serpents, Kinnaras, and the Apsaras, go to that mountain to sport. Thus, all the caves of the mountain are full of these denizens of heavenly planets. Because of the resounding vibrations of the denizens of heaven singing in the caves, the lions there, being very proud of their strength, roar with unbearable envy, thinking that another lion is roaring in that way. The valleys beneath Trikuta mountain are beautifully decorated by many varieties of jungle animals, and in the trees, which are maintained in gardens by the demigods, varieties of birds chirp with sweet voices. Trikuta mountain has many lakes and rivers, with beaches covered by small gems resembling grains of sand. The water is as clear as crystal, and when the demigod damsels bathe in it, their bodies lend fragrance to the water and the breeze, thus enriching the atmosphere. In the valley of Trikuta mountain there was a garden called Ritumat. This garden belonged to the great devotee Varuna, and was a sporting place for the damsels of the demigods. Flowers and fruits grew there in all seasons. Among them were mandaras, parijatas, patalas, ashokas, champakas, chutas, piyalas, panasas, mangoes, amratakas, kramukas, coconut tree, date tree, and pomegranates. There were mandukas, palm trees, tamalas, asanas, arjunas, arishtas, undumbaras, plakshas, pain trees, kimshukas, and sandalwood trees. There were also pichumbardas, kovidaras, sararas, there are also pichumbaras, kovidaras, saralas, suraladaras, grapes, sugarcane, bananas, jambu, badaris, akshas, abiyas, and amalakis. On that garden there was a very large lake filled with shining golden lotus flowers and of flowers known as kumuda, kalara, utpala, and shatapatra, which added excellent beauty to the mountain. There are also bilva, kapita, jambira, and balataka trees. Intoxicated bumblebees drank honey and hummed with the chirping of the birds, whose songs were very melodious. The lake was crowded with swans, karandavas, chakravakas, cranes, and flocks of water chickens, dayuhas, koyastis, and other murmuring birds. Because of the agitating movements of the fish and tortoise, the water was decorated with pollen that had fallen from the lotus flowers. The lake was surrounded by kandamba flowers, vetasa flowers, nalas, nipas, vanjulakas, kundas, kurubakas, ashokas, shirishas, kutajalas, ingudas, kubjakas, svarnayutis, nagas, pungas, jatis, malikas, shatapatras, jalakas, and Madhavilatas. The banks were also abundantly adorned with varieties of trees that yielded flowers and fruits in all seasons. Thus the entire mountain stood gloriously decorated. The leader of the elephants, who lived in the forest of the mountain Trikuta, once wandered toward the lake with his female elephants. He broke many plants, creepers, thickets, and trees, not caring for their piercing thorns. Simply by catching scent of that elephant, all other such elephants, the tigers and other ferocious animals such as lions, rhinoceroses, great serpents, black and white sarabas, fled in fear. The chamari deer also fled. By the mercy of this elephant, animals like foxes, wolves, buffaloes, bears, boars, gopuchas, porcupines, monkeys, rabbits, and other deer, and many other small animals lorded everywhere in the forest. They were not afraid of him. Surrounded by the herd's other elephants, including females, and followed by the young ones, Gajapati, the leader of the elephants, made Trikuta mountain tremble all around because of the weight of his body. He was perspiring liquor because dripped from his mouth, and his vision was overwhelmed by intoxication. He was being served by bumblebees who drank honey, and from a distance he could smell the dust of the lotus flowers, which carried from the lake by the breeze. Thus, surrounded by his associates who were afflicted by thirst, he soon arrived at the banks of the lake. The king of the elephants entered the lake, bathed thoroughly, and was relieved of his fatigue. Then, with the aid of his trunk, he drank the cold, clear, nectarian water, which was mixed with the dust of lotus flowers and water lilies, until he was fully satisfied. Like a human being who lacks spiritual knowledge and is too attached to the members of his family, the elephant, being illusioned by the external energy of Krishna, had his wives and children bathe and drink in the water. Indeed, he raised water from the lake with his trunk and sprayed it over them. He did not mind the hard labor involved in this endeavor. By the arrangement of Providence, O king, a strong crocodile was angry at the elephant and attacked the elephant's leg in water. The elephant was certainly strong, and he tried his best to get free from the danger sent by Providence. Thereafter, seeing Gajendra in a grave condition, his wives felt very, very sorry and began to cry. The other elephants wanted to help Gajendra, but because of the crocodile's great strength, they could not rescue him by grasping him from behind. O king, the elephant and the crocodile fought in this way, pulling one another in and out of the water for 1,000 years. Upon seeing the fight, the demigods were very surprised. Thereafter, Because of being pulled into the water and fighting for many long years, the elephant became diminished in his mental, physical, and sensual strength. The crocodile, on the contrary, being an animal of the water, increased in enthusiasm, physical strength, and sensual power. When the king of the elephants saw that he was under the clutches of the crocodile by the will of providence, and being embodied and circumstantially helpless, could not save himself from the danger, he was extremely afraid of being killed. He consequently thought for a long time and finally reached the following decision. The other elephants, who are my friends and relatives, could not rescue me from this danger. What then to speak of my wives? They cannot do anything. It is by the will of providence that I have been attacked by this crocodile, and therefore I shall seek shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is always the shelter of everyone, even of great personalities. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is certainly not known to everyone, but he is very powerful and influential. Therefore, although the serpent of eternal inner time, which is fearful in force, endlessly chases everyone, ready to swallow him, if one who fears the serpent seeks shelters of the Lord gives him protection, for even death runs away in fear of the Lord. I therefore surrender unto him, the great and powerful Supreme Authority, who is the actual shelter of everyone. Thus ends Chapter 2, the Elephant Gajendra's Crisis. Chapter 3, Gajendra's Prayers of Surrender. Sri Shukadev Goswami continued. Thereafter, the king of the elephants, Gajendra, fixed his mind in the heart with the perfect intelligence and chanted a mantra which he had learned in his previous birth as Indradyumna, and which he remembered by the grace of Krishna. The king of the elephants, Gajendra, said, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Person, Vasudev. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Because of this material body acts due to the presence of the Spirit, and he is therefore the root cause of everyone. He is worshipable for such exalted persons as Brahma and Shiva, and he has entered the heart of every living being. Let us meditate upon him. The Supreme Godhead is the supreme platform on which everything rests and ingredients by which everything has been produced. The person who has created and is the only cause of this cosmic manifestation. Nonetheless, he is different from the cause and the result. I surrender unto him, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is self-sufficient in everything. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, by expanding his own energy, keeps this cosmic manifestation visible, and again sometimes renders it invisible. He is both the supreme cause and the supreme result, the observer and the witness in all circumstances. Thus he is transcendental to everything. May that Supreme Personality of Godhead give me protection. In due course of time, when all the causative and effective manifestations of the universe, including the planets and their directors and maintainers, are annihilated, there is a situation of dense darkness. Above this darkness, however, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I take shelter of his lotus feet. An artist on stage being covered by attractive dresses and dancing with different movements is not understood by his audience. Similarly, the activities and features of the supreme artist cannot be understood, even by the demigods or great sages, and certainly not by those who are unintelligent like animals. Neither the demigods nor the sages nor the unintelligent can understand the features of the Lord, nor can they express in words his actual position. That may that Supreme Personality of Godhead give me protection. Renunciants and great sages who see all living beings equally who are friendly to everyone and who flawlessly practice in the forest the vows of brahmacharya, vanaprastha, and sannyas, desire to see the all-auspicious lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. May that Supreme Personality of Godhead be my destination. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has no material birth, activities, name, form, qualities, or faults. To fulfill the purpose for which this material world is created and destroyed, he comes in the form of a human being like Lord Rama or Lord Krishna by his original internal potency. He has immense potency and in various forms, all free from material contamination. He acts wonderfully. He is therefore the Supreme Brahman. I offer my respectful obeisances to him. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the self-effulgent Supersoul, who is the witness in everyone's heart, who enlightens the individual soul, and who cannot be reached by exercise of the mind, words, or consciousness. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is realized by pure devotees who act in the transcendental existence of Bhakti Yoga. He is the bestower of uncontaminated happiness and is the master of the transcendental world. Therefore, I offer my respects unto him. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Vasudeva, who is all-pervading, to the Lord's fierce form as Lord Nrsimhadev, to the Lord's form as an animal, Lord Varahadev, to Lord Dattatreya, who preaches and preached in personalism, to Lord Buddha, and to all the other incarnations. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Lord, who has no material qualities, but who accepts the three qualities, goodness, passion, and ignorance, within this material world. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the impersonal Brahman effulgence. I beg to offer my respectful obeisances unto you, who are the witness of all that occurs. You are the Supreme Person, the original and material nature. You are also the owner of the material body. Therefore, you are the Supreme Complete. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. My Lord, you are the observer of all the objectives of the senses. Without your mercy, there is no possibility of solving the problems of doubts. The material world is just like a shadow resembling you. Indeed, one accepts this material world as a real because it gives a glimpse of your existence. My Lord, you are the cause of all causes, but you yourself one of causes, which you are representations, and you are the source of the Paramatma system, Parampara system. Because it is you who can give liberation, you are the only shelter for all transcendentalists. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you. My Lord, as the fire in Arani wood is covered, you and your unlimited knowledge are covered by the material modes of nature. Your mind, however, is not attentive to the activities of the modes of nature. Those who are advanced in spiritual knowledge are not subject to the regulative principles in the Vedic literatures. Because such advanced souls are transcendental, you personally appear in their pure minds. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Since an animal such as I has surrendered unto you, who are supremely liberated, certainly you will release me from this dangerous position. Indeed, being extremely merciful, you incessantly try to deliver me. By your partial features as Paramatma, you are situated in the hearts of all embodied beings. You are celebrated as direct transcendental knowledge. You are unlimited. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. My Lord, those who are completely freed from material contamination always meditate upon you within the cores of their hearts. You are extremely difficult to attain for those like me who are too attached to mental concoction home, relatives, friends, money, servants, and assistants. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, uncontaminated by the modes of nature. You are the reservoir of all enlightenment, the Supreme Controller. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you. After worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, those who are interested in the four principles of religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation obtain from him what they desire. What then is to be said of other benedictions? Indeed, sometimes the Lord gives a spiritual body to such ambitious worshippers. May that Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is unlimitedly merciful, bestow upon me the benediction of liberation from this present danger and from the materialistic way of life. Unalloyed devotees who have no desire other than to serve the Lord worship him in full surrender and always hear and chant about his activities, which are most wonderful and auspicious. Thus they always merge in an ocean of transcendental bliss. Such devotees never ask the Lord for any benediction. I, however, am in danger. Thus I pray to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is eternally existing, who is invisible, who is the Lord of all great personalities, such as Brahma, and who is available only to transcendental bhakti yoga. Being extremely subtle, he is beyond the reach of my senses, and being transcendental to all external realization, he is unlimited. He is the original cause, and he is completely full in everything. I offer my obeisances unto him. The Supreme Personality of Godhead creates his minor parts and parcels, the Jiva Tattva, beginning with the Lord Brahma, the demigods, and the expansions of Vedic knowledge, Sam, Rig, Yajur, and Tattva, and including all other living entities, moving and non-moving, with their different names and characteristics, as the sparks of a fire or the shining of rays of the sun emanate from their source and merge into it again and again. The mind, the intelligence, the senses, the gross and subtle material bodies, and the continuous transformations of the different modes of nature all emanate from the Lord and again merge into him. He is neither demigod nor demon, neither human nor bird nor beast. He is not woman, man, or neuter. He is an animal, nor is he an animal. He is not a material quality, a fruitive activity, a manifestation or non-manifestation. He is the last word of discrimination of not this, not that. He is unlimited. All glories to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I do not wish to live any more after I am released from the attack of the crocodile. What is the use of an elephant's body covered externally and internally by ignorance? I simply desire eternal liberation from the covering of ignorance. That covering is not destroyed by the influence of time. Now, fully desiring release from material life, I offer my respectful obeisances unto that Supreme Person who is the creator of the universe, who is himself the form of the universe, who is nonetheless transcendental to this cosmic manifestation. He is the supreme knower of everything in this world, the supersoul of the universe. He is the unborn, supremely situated Lord. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supersoul, the master of all mystic yoga, who is seen in the core of the heart by perfect mystics, when they are completely purified and freed from the reactions of fruitive activity by practicing bhakti yoga. My Lord, you are the controller of formidable strength in three kinds of energy. You appear as the reservoir of the sense pleasures and the protector of the surrendered souls. You possess unlimited energy, but you are unapproachable by those who are unable to control their senses. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you again and again. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by whose illusory energy the Jiva, who is part and parcel of God, forgets its real identity because of the bodily concept of life. I take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose glories are difficult to understand. Sri Shukadev Goswami continued, when the king of the elephants was describing the supreme authority without mentioning any particular person, he did not invoke the demigods headed by Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Indra, and Chandra. Thus, none of them approached him. However, because Lord Hari is the Supersoul, Purushottama, the personality of Godhead, he appears before Gajendra. After understanding the awkward condition of Gajendra, who had offered his prayers, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, who lives everywhere, appeared with the demigods who were offering prayers to him. Carrying his disc and other weapons, he appeared there on the back of his carrier, Garuda, with great speed, according to his desire. Thus he appeared before Gajendra. Gajendra has been forcibly captured by the crocodile in the water and was feeling acute pain. But when he saw that Narayana, wielding his disc, was coming in the sky on the back of Garuda, he immediately took a lotus flower in his trunk, and with great difficulty, due to his painful condition, he uttered the following words: O my Lord Narayana, Master of the universe, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Therefore, seeing Gajendra in such an aggrieved position, the unborn Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, immediately got down from the back of Garuda, by his causeless mercy, and pulled the king of the elephants, along with the crocodile, out of the water. Then, in the presence of all the demigods who were looking on, the Lord severed the crocodile's mouth from its body, with his disc. In this way, he saved Gajendra, the king of the elephants. Thus end Chapter 3 of Canto 8, Gajendra's Prayers of Surrender. Chapter 4. Gajendra returns to the spiritual world. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, when the Lord delivered Gajendra, king of the elephants, all the demigods, sages, and Gandharvas, helped by Brahma and Shiva, praised this activity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and showered flowers upon both the Lord and Gajendra. There was a beating of kettle drums in the heavenly planets. The inhabitants of Gandharvaloka began to dance and sing, while great sages and the inhabitants of Chanaraloka and Siddhaloka offered prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Purushottama. The best of the Gandharvas, King Huhu, having been cursed by Devala Muni, had become a crocodile. Now, having been delivered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he assumed a very beautiful form as a Gandharva. Understanding by whose mercy this had happened, he immediately offered his respectful obeisances with his head and began chanting prayers just suitable for the Transcendental Lord, the Supreme Eternal, who is worshipped by the choicest verses. Having been favored by the causeless mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and having regained his original form, King Huhu circumambulated the Lord and offered his obeisances. Then, in the presence of all the demigods, headed by Brahma, he returned to Gandharvaloka. He had been freed of all sinful reactions. Because Gajendra, king of the elephants, had been touched directly by the hands of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he was immediately freed of all material ignorance and bondage. Thus he received the salvation of Sarupya Mukti, in which he achieved the same bodily features as the Lord, being dressed in yellow garments and possessing 4 hands. This Gajendra had formerly been a Vaishnav and the king of the country known as Pandya, which is the province of Dravida, South India. In his previous life, he was known as Indradyumna Maharaj. Indradyumna Maharaj retired from family life and went to the Malaya Hills, where he had a small cottage for his ashram. He wore matted locks on his head and always engaged in austerities. Once, while observing a vow of silence, he was fully engaged in the worship of the Lord and absorbed in ecstatic love of Godhead. While Indradyumna Maharaj was engaged in ecstatic meditation worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the great sage Agastya Muni arrived there, surrounded by his disciples. When the Muni saw that Maharaj Indradyumna, who was sitting in a secluded place, remained silent and did not follow the etiquette of offering him a reception, he was very angry. Agastya Muni then spoke this curse against the king. This king Indradyumna is not at all gentle. Being low and uneducated, he has insulted a Brahmana. May he therefore enter the region of darkness and receive the dull, dumb body of an elephant. Shukadev Goswami continued, My dear king, after Agastya Muni had thus cursed King Indradyumna, the Muni left that place along with his disciples. Since the king was a devotee, he accepted Agastya Muni's curse as welcome, because it was the desire of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, although in his next life he got the body of an elephant, because of devotional service he remembered how to worship and offer prayers to the Lord. Upon delivering the king of the elephants from the clutches of the crocodile, and from material existence which resembles a crocodile, the Lord awarded him the status of Sarupya Mukti. In the presence of the Gandharvas and the Siddhas and the other demigods who were praising the Lord for his wonderful transcendental activities, the Lord, sitting on the back of his carrier Garuda, returned to his all-wonderful abode and took Gajendra with him. My dear King Parikshit, I have now described the wonderful power of Krishna as displayed when the Lord delivered the king of the elephants. O best of the Kuru dynasty, those who hear this narration become fit to be promoted to the higher planetary systems. Simply because of hearing this narration, they gain a reputation as devotees are unaffected by the contamination of Kali Yuga, and they never see bad dreams. Therefore, after getting up from bed in the morning, those who desire their own welfare, especially the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and in particular the Brahmana Vaishnavas, should chant this narration as it is, without deviation, to counteract the troubles of bad dreams. O best of the Kuru dynasty, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supersoul of everyone, being thus pleased, addressed Gajendra in the presence of everyone there. He spoke the following blessings. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Freed from all sinful reactions are those who rise from bed at the end of the night, early in the morning, and fully concentrate their minds with great attention upon my form, your form, this lake, this mountain, the cave, the gardens, the cane plants, the bamboo plants, the celestial trees, the residential quarters of me, Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, the 3 peaks of Trikuta mountain, made of gold, silver, and iron, my very pleasing abode, the ocean of milk, the white sands, Shvetadweep, which is always brilliant with spiritual rays, my mark of Srivatsa, the Kastuba gem, my Vijayanti garland, my club, Kaumodaki, my Sudarshan chakra, and Panchajanya Kansham. My bearer, Garuda, the king of the birds, my bed, Seshanaga, my expansion of energy, the goddess of fortune, Lord Brahma, Narada Muni, Lord Shiva, Prahlad, my incarnations like Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, my unlimited, all auspicious activities which yield piety to he who hears them, the sun, the moon, fire, the mantra Omkar, the absolute truth, the total material energy, the cows and the brahmanas, devotional service, the wives of Soma and Kshapa, who are all daughters of King Daksha, the river Ganges, Saraswati, Nanda, and the Yamuna, Kalindi, the elephant, Airavata, Dhruva Maharaj, the 7 rishis, and the pious human beings. My dear devotee, unto those who rise from bed at the end of the night and offer me the prayers offered by you, I give an eternal residence in the spiritual world at the end of their lives. Sri Shukadev Goswami continued, after giving this instruction, the Lord, who is known as Rishikesh, bugled with his Panchajanya Kanshal. In this way, pleasing all the demigods headed by Lord Brahma, he then mounted the back of his carrier Garuda. Thus end Chapter 4 of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, Gajendra returns to the spiritual world. Chapter 5. The demigods appeal to the Lord for protection. Shukadev Goswami continued, O king, I have described to you the pastimes of Gajendra Mokshana, which is the most pious to hear. By hearing of such activities of the Lord, one can be freed from all sinful reactions. Now please listen as I describe Raivata Manu. The brothers of Tamasa Manu, that was the 5th Manu named Raivata. His sons were headed by Arjuna, Bali, and Vindhya. O king, in the millennium of Raivata Manu, the king of heaven was known as Vibhu. Among the demigods were the Bhuttarayas. Among the 7 Brahmanas who occupied the 7 planets were Hiranyaroma, Vedarshira, and Urdhvabahu. From the combination of Subhadra and his wife Vikunta there appeared the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vaikunta, along with demigods who were his personal plenary expansions. Just to please the goddess of fortune, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vaikunta, at her request, created another Vaikunta planet which is worshipped by everyone. Although the great activities and transcendental qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's various incarnations are wonderfully described, sometimes we are unable to understand them. Yet, everything is possible for Lord Vishnu. If one could count the atoms of the universe, then he could count the qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But no one can count the atoms of the universe, nor can anyone count the transcendental qualities of the Lord. The son of Chakshu, known as Chakshusha, was the sixth Manu. He had many sons headed by Purusha, and Sudyumna. During the reign of Chakshusha Manu, the king of heaven was known as Mantradruma. Among the demigods were the Apyas, and among the great sages were Havishman and Viraka. In this 6th Manvantara millennium, Lord Vishnu, the master of the universe, appeared in his partial expansion. He was begotten by Variraja in the womb of his wife Devashambhuti, and his name was Ajita. By churning the ocean of milk, Ajita produced nectar for the demigods. In the form of a tortoise, he moved here and there, carrying on his back the great mountain known as Mandara. King Parikshit inquired, "O great Brahmana, Shukadev Goswami, why and how did Lord Vishnu churn the ocean of milk? For what reason did he stay in the waters as a tortoise and hold up the Mandara mountain? How did the demigods obtain the nectar, and what other things were produced from the churning of the ocean? Kindly describe all these wonderful activities of the Lord." My heart, which is disturbed by the three miserable conditions of material life, is not yet sated with hearing your description. You describe the glorious activities of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the master of the demigods. Sri Shuta Goswami said, "O learned Brahmanas assembled here at Naimisharanya, when Shukadev Goswami, the son of Dvaipanya, was thus questioned by the king, he congratulated the king and endeavored to describe further the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Shukadev Goswami said, "When the Asuras with their serpent weapons severely attacked the demigods in the fight, many of the demigods fell and lost their lives. Indeed, they could not be revived. At that time, O king, the demigods had been cursed by Durvasa Muni. The three worlds were poverty-stricken, and therefore ritualistic ceremonies could not be performed. The effects of this were very serious. Lord Indra, Varuna, and the other demigods, seeing their lives at such a state, consulted among themselves, but they could not find any solution. Then all the demigods assembled and went together to the peak of Sumero mountain. There, in the assembly of Lord Brahma, they fell down to offer Lord Brahma their obeisances, and then they informed him of all the incidents that had taken place. Upon seeing that the demigods were bereft of all influence and strength, and that their three worlds were consequently devoid of auspiciousness, and upon seeing that the demigods were in an awkward position, whereas all the demons were flourishing, Lord Brahma, who is above all the demigods and who is most powerful, concentrated his mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus being encouraged, he became bright-faced and spoke to the demigods as follows. Lord Brahma said, "I, Lord Shiva, all of you demigods and demons, the living entities born of perspiration, the living beings born of eggs, the trees and plants sprouting from the earth, and the living entities born from embryos, all come from the Supreme Lord, from his incarnations of Rajagun, Lord Brahma, the Guna avatar, and from the greatest sages, rishis, who are part of me. Thus, therefore, go to the Supreme Lord and take shelter of his lotus feet." For the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there is no one to be killed, no one to be protected, and no one to be neglected, and no one to be worshipped. Nonetheless, For the sake of creation, maintenance, and annihilation, according to time, he accepts different forms as incarnations, either in the mode of goodness, the mode of passion, or the mode of ignorance. Now is the time to invoke the mode of goodness for the living entities who have accepted material bodies. The mode of goodness is meant to establish the Supreme Lord's rule, which will maintain the existence of the creation. Therefore, this opportune moment to take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, this is the opportune moment to take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because he is naturally very kind and dear to the demigods, he will certainly bestow good fortune upon us. O Maharaj Parikshit, subduer of all enemies, after Lord Brahma finished speaking to the demigods, he took them to the abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is beyond the material world. The Lord's abode is in an island called Shvetadweep, which is situated on an ocean of milk. There, at Shvetadweep, Lord Brahma offered prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even though he had never seen the Supreme Lord. Simply because Lord Brahma had heard about the Supreme Personality of Godhead from Vedic literature, with a fixed mind he offered the prayers as written or approved by Vedic literature. Lord Brahma said, O Supreme Lord, O Changeless Unlimited Supreme Truth, you are the origin of everything. Being all-pervading, you are in everyone's heart and also in the atom. You have no material qualities. Indeed, you are inconceivable. The mind cannot catch you by speculation, and words fail to describe you. You are the Supreme Master of everyone, and therefore you are the worshipable for everyone. We offer our respectful obeisances unto you. The Supreme Personality of Godhead directly and indirectly knows how everything, including the living force, mind, and intelligence, is working under his control. He is the illuminator of everything and has no ignorance. He does not have a material body subject to the reactions of previous activities, and he is free from the ignorance of partiality and materialistic education. I therefore take shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, who is eternal, all-pervading, and as great as the sky, who appears with 6 opulences in the 3 yogas, Satya, Treta, and Dwarpa. In the cycle of material activities, the material body resembles the wheel of a mental chariot. The 10 senses, 5 for working and 5 for gathering knowledge, and the 5 life airs within the body, form the 15 spokes of the chariot's wheels. The 3 modes of nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, are at its center of activities, and 8 ingredients of nature, earth, water, fire, air, sky, mind, intelligence, and false ego, comprise the rim of the wheel. External material energy moves this wheel like electrical energy. Thus, the wheel revolves very quickly around its hub or central support, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the Supersoul and the ultimate truth. Around the support, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the Supersoul and the ultimate truth, we offer our respectful obeisances unto him. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is situated in pure goodness, Shuddha Sattva, and therefore he is Eka Varna, the Omkar, Pranava. Because the Lord is beyond the cosmic manifestation which is considered to be darkness, he is not visible to material eyes. Nonetheless, he is not separated from us by time or space, but is present everywhere, seated on his carrier Garuda. He is worshipped by means of mystical yogic power by those who have achieved freedom from agitation. Let us all offer our respectful obeisances unto him. No one can overcome the Supreme Personality of Godhead's illusory energy Maya, which is so strong that it bewilders everyone, making one lose the sense to understand the aim of life. That same Maya, however, is subdued by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who rules over everyone and who is equally disposed towards all living entities. Let us offer our obeisances unto him. Since our bodies are made of sattva guna, we, the demigods, are internally and externally situated in goodness. All the great saints are also situated in this way. Therefore, if even we cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, what is to be said of those who are most insignificant in their bodily constitutions, being situated in the modes of passion and ignorance? How can they understand the Lord? Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto him. On this earth there are 4 kinds of living entities, who are all created by him. The material creation rests on his lotus feet. He is the great Supreme Person, full of opulence and power. May he be pleased with us. The entire cosmic manifestation has emerged from water, and it is because of water that all living entities endure, live, and develop. This water is nothing but the semen of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, may the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has such great potency, be pleased with us. Soma, the moon, is the source of food grains, strength, and longevity for all demigods. He is also the master of all vegetation and the source of generation for all living entities. He is, as stated by learned scholars, the moon is the mind of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. May that Supreme Personality of Godhead, the source of all opulences, be pleased with us. Fire, which is born for the sake of accepting oblations in ritualistic ceremonies, is the mouth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Fire exists within the depths of the ocean to produce wealth, and fire is present in the abdomen to digest food and produce various secretions for the maintenance of the body. May that supremely powerful Personality of Godhead be pleased with us. The Sun God marks the path of liberation, which is called Archiradi Vartma. He is the chief source for understanding of the Vedas. He is the abode where the absolute truth can be worshipped. He is the gateway to liberation, and he is the source of eternal life as well as the cause of death. The Sun God is the eye of the Lord. May that Supreme Lord, who is supremely opulent, be pleased with us. All living entities, moving and non-moving, receive their vital force, their bodily strength, their very lives from the air. All of us follow the air for our vital force, exactly as servants follow an emperor. The vital force of air is generated from the original vital force of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. May that Supreme Lord be pleased with us. May the Supreme Powerful Personality of Godhead be pleased with us. The different directions are generated from his ears. The holes of the body come from his heart. And the vital force, the senses, the mind, the air within the body, and the ether, which is shelter of the body, come from his navel. Mahindra, the king of heaven, was generated from the prowess of the Lord. The demigods were generated from the mercy of the Lord. Lord Shiva was generated from the anger of the Lord, and Lord Brahma, from his sober intelligence, the Vedic mantras were generated from the bodily holes of the Lord. And the great saints and Prajapatis were generated from his genitals. May that supremely powerful Lord be pleased with us. The goddess of fortune was generated from his chest, the inhabitants of Pitraloka from his shadow, religion from his bosom, and irreligion, the opposite of religion, from his back. The heavenly planets were generated from the top of his head, and the apsaras from his sense enjoyment. May that supremely powerful Personality of Godhead be pleased with us. The Brahmanas in Vedic knowledge come from the mouth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Kshatriyas, the bodily strength, come from his arms. The Vaishyas and their expert knowledge and productivity and wealth come from his thighs. And the Shudras, who are outside of Vedic knowledge, come from his feet. May that Personality of Godhead, who is full in prowess, be pleased with us. Greed is generated from his lower lip, affection from his upper lip, bodily luster from his nose, animalistic lusty desire from his sense of touch, Yamaraj from his eyebrows, and eternal time from his eyelashes. May that Supreme Lord be pleased with us. All learned men say that the 5 elements, eternal time, fruitive activity, the 3 modes of material nature, and the varieties produced by these modes are all creations of Yogamaya. This material world is therefore extremely difficult to understand, but those who are highly learned have rejected it. May the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the controller of everything, be pleased with us. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is completely silent, free from endeavor, and completely satisfied by his own achievements. He is not attracted to the activities of the material world through his senses. Indeed, in performing his pastimes in this material world, he is just like the unattached air. O Supreme Personality of Godhead, we are surrendered unto you, yet we wish to see you. Please make your original form and smiling lotus face visible to our eyes and appreciable to our other senses. O Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, by your sweet will, you appear in various incarnations, millennium after millennium, and act wonderfully, performing uncommon activities. That would be impossible for us. Karmis are always anxious to accumulate wealth for their sense gratification, but for that purpose they must work very hard. Yet even though they work hard, the results are not satisfying. Indeed, sometimes their work results only in frustration. But devotees who have dedicated their lives to the service of the Lord can achieve substantial results without working very hard. These results exceed the devotees' expectations. Activities dedicated to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even if performed in small measure, never go in vain. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, being the Supreme Father, is naturally very dear and always ready to act for the good of the living entities. When one pours water on the root of a tree, the trunk and branches of the tree are automatically pleased. Similarly, when one becomes a devotee of Lord Vishnu, everyone is served, for the Lord is the supersoul of everyone. My Lord, all obeisances unto you, who are eternal, beyond time's limit of past, present, and future. You are inconceivable in your activities. You are the master of the three modes of material nature, and being transcendental to all material qualities, you are free from material contamination. You are the controller of all three of the modes of nature, but at the present you are in favor of the quality of goodness. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto you. Thus in chapter 5, the demigods appeal to the Lord for protection. Chapter 6, the demigods and the demons declare a truce. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, O King Parikshit, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari, being thus worshipped with prayers by the demigods, and Lord Brahma appeared before them. His bodily effulgence resembled the simultaneous rising of thousands of suns. The vision of all the demigods was blocked by the Lord's effulgence. Thus they could see neither the sky, the directions, the land, nor even themselves, what to speak of seeing the Lord who was present before them. Lord Brahma, along with Lord Shiva, saw the crystal clear personal beauty of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose blackish body resembles the Marakata gem, whose eyes are reddish like the depths of a lotus, who is dressed with garments that are yellow like molten gold, and whose entire body is attractively decorated. They saw his beautiful smiling lotus-like face, crowned by a helmet bedecked with valuable jewels. The Lord has attractive eyebrows, and his cheeks are adorned with earrings. Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva saw the belt of the Lord's waist, the bangles on his arms, the necklace on his chest, and the ankle bells on his legs. The Lord is bedecked with flower garlands. His neck is decorated with the Kaustuba gem, and he carries with him the goddess of fortune and his personal weapons like the disc and club. When Lord Brahma, along with Lord Shiva and his other demigods, thus saw the form of the Lord, they all immediately fell to the ground, offering obeisances. Lord Brahma said, Although you are never born, your appearance and disappearance as incarnations never cease. You are always free from material qualities, and you are the shelter of transcendental bliss, resembling an ocean. Eternally existing in your transcendental form, you are the supreme subtle of the most extremely subtle. We therefore offer our respectful obeisances unto you, the Supreme whose existence is inconceivable. O best of persons, O Supreme Director, those who actually aspire for supreme good fortune worship this form of your Lordship according to the Vedic Tantras. My Lord, we can see all the three worlds in you. My dear Lord, who are always fully independent, this entire cosmic manifestation arises from you, rests upon you, and ends in you. Your Lordship is the beginning, sustenance, and end of everything. Like the earth, which is the cause of an earthen pot, which supports the pot to which the pot when broken, finally returns. O Supreme, you are independent to yourself and do not take help from others. Through your own potency, you create this cosmic manifestation and enter into it. Those who are advanced in Krishna consciousness, who are fully in knowledge of the authoritative sastras, and who, through the practice of bhakti yoga, are cleansed of all material contamination, can see with clear minds that although you exist within the transformations of the material qualities, your presence is untouched by these qualities. As one can derive fire from wood, milk from the milk bag of the cow, food grains and water from the land, and prosperity in one's livelihood from industrial enterprises, so by the practice of bhakti yoga, even within this material world, one can achieve your favor or intelligently approach you. Those who are pious all affirm this. Elephants, afflicted by the forest fire, become very happy when they get water from the Ganges. Similarly, O my Lord, from whose navel grows a lotus flower, since you have now appeared before us, we have become transcendently happy, and by seeing your Lordship, from whom we have desired to see for a long time, we have achieved our ultimate goal in life. My Lord, the various demigods, the directors of this universe, have come to your lotus feet. Please fulfill the purpose for which we have come. You are the witness of everything, and from within and without, nothing is unknown to you, and therefore it is unnecessary to inform you again of anything. Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and all the demigods, accompanied by the Prajapatis like Daksha, are nothing but sparks illuminated by you, who are the original fire. Since we are particles of you, what can we understand about our welfare? O Supreme Lord, please give us the means of deliverance that is suitable for the Brahmanas and demigods. Shukadev Goswami continued, when the Lord was thus offered prayers by the demigods headed by Lord Brahma, he understood the purpose for which they had approached him. Therefore, in a deep voice that resembled the rumbling of clouds, the Lord replied to the demigods, who all stood there and attentively with folded hands. Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the master of the demigods, was capable of performing the activities of the demigods by himself, he wanted to enjoy pastimes in churning the ocean. Therefore he spoke as follows. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and other demigods, please hear me with great attention, for what I will say will bring good fortune for all of you. As long as you are not flourishing, you should make a truce with the demons and asuras, who are now being favored by time. The demigods, fulfilling one's own interest, is so important that one may even have to make a truce with one's enemies. For the sake of one's self-interest, one has to act according to the logic of the snake and the mouse. Immediately endeavor to produce nectar, which a person who is about to die may drink to become immortal. O demigods, cast into the ocean of milk all kinds of vegetables, grass, creepers, and drugs. Then, with my help, making Mandara mountain the churning rod, and Vasuki the rope for the churning, churn the ocean of milk with undiverted attention. Thus the demons will be engaged in labor, but you, the demigods, will gain the actual result, the nectar produced from the ocean. My dear demigods, with patience and peace everything can be done, but if one is agitated by anger, the goal is not achieved. Therefore, whatever the demons ask, agree to their proposal. A poison known as Kalakuta will be generated from the ocean of milk But you should not fear. When various products are churned from the ocean, you should not be greedy for them or anxious to obtain them, nor should you be angry. Shukadev Goswami continued, O King Parikshit, after advising the demigods in this way, the independent Supreme Personality of Godhead, the best of all living entities, disappeared from their presence. Then Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, after offering their respectful obeisances to the Lord, returned to their abodes. All the demigods then approached Maharaj Bali. Maharaj Bali, a most celebrated king of the demons, knew very well when to make peace and when to fight. Thus, although his commanders and captains were agitated and were about to kill the demigods, Maharaj Bali, saying that the demigods were coming to him without a militant attitude, forbade his commanders to kill them. The demigods approached Maharaj Bali, the son of Virochana, and sat down near him. Bali Maharaj was protected by the commanders of the demons and was most opulent, having conquered all the universes. After pleasing Bali Maharaj with mild words, Lord Indra, the king of the demigods, who was most intelligent, very politely submitted all the proposals he had learned from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu. The proposals submitted by the King Indra were immediately accepted by Bali Maharaj and his assistants, headed by Shambhara and Arishtanemi, and by all other residents of Tripura. O Maharaj Parikshit, chastiser of the enemies, the demigods and the demons thereafter made an armistice between them. Then, with great enterprise, they arranged to produce nectar as proposed by Lord Indra. Thereafter, with great strength, the demons and the demigods, who were all very powerful and who had long stout arms, uprooted Mandara mountain, crying very loudly. They brought it toward the ocean of milk. Because of conveying the great mountain for a long distance, King Indra, Bali Maharaj, and the other demigods and demons became fatigued. Being unable to carry the mountain, they left it on the way. The mountain known as Mandara, which was extremely heavy, being made of gold, fell and smashed many demigods and demons. The demigods and demons were frustrated and disheartened. Their arms, thighs, shoulders were broken. Therefore, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who knows everything, appeared on the back of his carrier Garuda. Observing that most of the demons and the demigods had been crushed by the falling of the mountain, the Lord glanced over them and brought them back to life. Thus they became free from grief, and they even had no bruises on their bodies. The Lord very easily lifted the mountain with one hand and placed it on the back of Garuda. Then he too got on the back of Garuda and went to the ocean of milk, surrounded by the demigods and demons. Thereafter Garuda, the chief of the birds, unloaded Mandara mountain from his shoulders and brought it near the water. Then he was asked by the Lord to leave that place, and he left. Thus end Chapter 6, the demigods and demons declare a truce. Chapter 7, Lord Shiva saves the universe by drinking poison. Shukadev Goswami said, O best of the Kurus, Maharaj Parikshit, the demigods and demons, summoned Vasuki, king of the serpents, requesting him to come and promising to give him a share of the nectar. They coiled Vasuki around Mandara mountain as a churning rope, with which great pleasure they endeavored to produce nectar by churning the ocean of milk. The personality of Godhead, Ajita, grasped the front portion of the snake, and then the demigods followed. The leaders of the demons thought it unwise to hold the tail, the inauspicious portion of the snake. Instead, they wanted to hold the front, which they had taken by the personality of Godhead and the demons, because that portion was auspicious and glorious. Thus the demons, on the plea that they were highly advanced students of Vedic knowledge and were all famous for their birth and activities, protested that they wanted to hold the front of the snake. Thus the demons remained silent, opposing the desire of the demigods. Seeing the demons and understanding their motive, the personality of Godhead smiled. Without discussion, he immediately accepted their proposal by grasping the tail of the snake, and the demigods followed him. After thus adjusting how the snake was to be held, the sons of Kshapa, both gods and demons, began their activities, desiring to get nectar by churning the ocean of milk. O son of the Pandu dynasty, when Mandara mountain was thus being used as a churning rod in the ocean of milk, it had no support, and therefore, although held by the strong hands of the demigods and demons, it sank into the water. Because the mountain had been shrunk by the strength and providence, the demigods and demons were disappointed, and their faces seemed to shrivel. Seeing the situation that had been created by the will of the Supreme, the unlimitedly powerful Lord, whose determination is infallible, took the wonderful shape of a tortoise, entered the water, and lifted the great Mandara mountain. When the demigods and the demons saw that Mandara mountain had been lifted, they were enlivened and encouraged to begin churning again. The mountain rested on the back of the great tortoise, which extended for 800,000 miles like a large island. O king, when the demigods and demons, by the strength of their arms, rotated Mandara mountain on the back of the extraordinary tortoise, the tortoise accepted the rolling of the mountain as a means of scratching his body, and thus he felt a pleasing sensation. Thereafter, Lord Vishnu entered the demons as the quality of passion, and the demigods as the quality of goodness, and Vasukiti as the quality of ignorance, to encourage them to increase their various types of strength and energy. Manifesting himself with thousands of hands, the Lord then appeared on the summit of Mount Mandara like another great mountain, and held Mandara mountain with one hand. The upper planetary systems, Lord Brahma and the Lord Shiva, along with Indra, the king of heaven, and the other demigods, offered prayers to the Lord and showered flowers upon him. The demigods and demons worked almost madly for the nectar. Encouraged by the Lord who was above and below the mountain, and who had entered the demigods, the demons, Vasuki, and the mountain itself. Because of the strength of the demigods and demons, the ocean of milk was so powerfully agitated that all the alligators in the water were very much perturbed. Nonetheless, the churning of the ocean continued in this way. Vasuki had thousands of eyes and mouths, from which he breathed smoke and blazing fire, which affected the demons headed by Paloma, Kaleya, Bale, and Ilvala. Thus the demons, who appeared like sarala trees burned by the forest fire, gradually became powerless. Because the demigods were also affected by the blazing breath of Vasuki, their body luster diminished, and their garments, garlands, weapons, and faces were blackened by smoke. However, by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the clouds appeared on the sea, pouring torrents of rain, and breezes blew, carrying particles of water from the sea waves to the demigods itself. When the nectar did not come from the ocean, despite so much endeavor by the best of the demigods and the demons, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Ajita, personally began to churn the ocean. The Lord appeared like a blackish cloud. He was dressed with yellow garments, his earrings shone on his ears like lightning, and his hair spread over his shoulders. He wore a garland of flowers, and his eyes were pinkish with his strong, glorious arms, which awarded fearlessness throughout the universe. He took hold of Vasuki and began churning the ocean, using Mandara mountain as a churning rod. When engaged in this way, the Lord appeared like a beautifully situated mountain named Indranila. The fish, sharks, tortoises, and snakes were most agitated and perturbed, and the entire ocean became turbulent, and even the large aquatic animals like whales, water elephants, crocodiles, and timangula fish, large whales that can swallow small whales, came to the surface. While the ocean was being churned in this way, it first produced a fiercely dangerous poison called halaha. O king, when that uncontrolled person O king, when that uncontrollable poison was forcibly spread up and down in all directions, all the demigods, along with the Lord himself, approached Lord Shiva, Sadashiva, feeling unsheltered and very much afraid. They sought shelter of him. The demigods observed Lord Shiva sitting on the summit of Kailash hill with his wife, Bhavani, for the auspicious development of the three worlds. He was being worshipped by the great saintly persons desiring liberation. The demigods offered him their obeisances and prayers with great respect. The Prajapatis said, O greatest of all demigods, Mahadev, supersoul of all living entities, and cause of their happiness and prosperity, we have come to the shelter of your lotus feet. Now please save us from this fiery poison which is spreading all over the three worlds. O Lord, you are the cause of bondage and liberation of the entire universe because you are its ruler. Those who are advanced in spiritual consciousness surrender unto you, and therefore you are the cause of mitigating their distresses, and you are the cause of their liberation. We therefore worship your lordship. O Lord, you are self-effulgent and supreme. You create this material world by your personal energy, and you assume the names Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshvara. When you act in creation, maintenance, and annihilation, you are the cause of all causes, the self-effulgent, inconceivable, impersonal Brahman, which is originally Param Brahman. You manifest various potencies in the cosmic manifestation. O Lord, you are the original source of Vedic literature. You are the original cause of the material creation, the life force, the senses, the five elements, the three modes of Mahat Tattva. You are eternal time, determination, and the two religious systems called truth, Satya, and truthfulness, Arita. You are the shelter of the syllable Om, which consists of Aum. O Father of all planets, learned scholars, know that fire is your mouth, the surface of the globe is your lotus feet, eternal time is your movement, all directions are your ears, and Varuna, master of waters, is your tongue. O Lord of the sky, is your navel, the air is your breathing, the sun is your eyes, and the water is your semen. You are the shelter of all kinds of living entities, high and low. The god of the moon is your mind, and the upper planetary systems is your head. O Lord, you are the three Vedas personified. The seven seas are your abdomen, and the mountains are your bones. All drugs, creepers, and vegetables are the hairs on your body. The Vedic mantras like Gayatri are the 7 layers of your body, and the Vedic religious systems is the core of your heart. O Lord, the 5 important Vedic mantras are represented by your 5 faces, from which the 38 most celebrated Vedic mantras have been generated. Your lordship, being celebrated as Lord Shiva, is self-illuminated. You are directly situated as the supreme truth, known as Paramatma. O Lord, your shadow is seen in irreligion, which brings about varieties of irreligious creations. The 3 modes of nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, are your 3 eyes. And all Vedic literatures, which are full of verses, are emanations from you, because their compilers wrote the various scriptures after receiving your glance. O Lord Girisha, since the impersonal Brahman effulgence is transcendental to the material modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance, the various directors of this material world certainly cannot appreciate it or even know where it is. It is not understandable even to Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, or the King of Heaven, Mahendra. When annihilation is performed by your flames and sparks emanating from your eyes, the entire creation is burned to ashes. Nonetheless, you do not know how this happens. What then is to be said of your destroying the Daksha Yagya, Tripurasura, and the Kalakuta poison? Such activities cannot be subject matters for prayers offered to you. Exalted, self-satisfied persons who preach the entire world think of your lotus feet constantly within their hearts. However, when persons who do not know your austerity see you moving with Uma, they misunderstand you to be lusty, or when they see you wandering in the crematorium, they mistaken you that you are ferocious and envious. Certainly they are shameless. They cannot understand your activities. Even personalities like Brahma and other demigods cannot understand your position, for you are beyond the moving and non-moving creation. Since no one can understand you in truth, how can one offer you prayers? It is impossible. As far as we are concerned, we are creatures of Lord Brahma's creation. Under the circumstances, therefore, we cannot offer you adequate prayers, but as far as our ability allows, we have expressed our feelings. O greatest of all rulers, your actual identity is impossible for us to understand as far as we can see. Your presence brings flourishing happiness to everyone. Beyond this, no one can appreciate your activities. We can see this much and nothing more. Srila Shukadev Goswami continued, Lord Shiva is always benevolent toward all living entities. When he saw the living entities were very much disturbed by the poison, which was spreading everywhere, he was very compassionate. Thus he spoke to his eternal consort Sati as follows. Lord Shiva says, My dear Bhavani, just see how all these living entities have been placed in danger because of the poison produced from the churning of the ocean of milk. It is my duty to give protection and safety to all living entities struggling for existence. Certainly it is the duty of the Master to protect his suffering dependents. People in general, being bewildered by the illusory energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are always engaged in animosity toward one another. But devotees, even at the risk of their own temporary lives, try to save them. My dear gentle wife, Bhavani, when one performs benevolent activities for others, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, is very pleased. When the Lord is pleased, I am also pleased, along with all other living creatures. Therefore, let me drink this poison, for all the living entities may thus become happy because of me. Srila Shukadev Goswami continued, After informing Bhavani in this way, Lord Shiva began to drink the poison, and Bhavani, who knew perfectly well the capabilities of Lord Shiva, gave him her permission to do so. Thereafter, Lord Shiva, who is dedicated to auspicious, benevolent work for humanity, compassionately took the whole quantity of poison in his palm and drank it, as if in defamation. The poison born from the ocean of milk manifested its potency by marking Lord Shiva's neck with the bluish line. That line, however, is now accepted as an ornament of the Lord. It is said that great personalities almost always accept voluntary suffering because of the suffering of people in general. This is considered the highest method of worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is present in everyone's heart. Upon hearing this act, everyone, including Bhavani, the daughter of Maharaj Daksha, Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, and the people in general, very highly praised the deed performed by Lord Shiva, who is worshipped by the demigods and who bestows benedictions upon people. Scorpions, cobras, poisonous drugs, and other animals whose bites are poisonous took the opportunity to drink whatever little poison had fallen and scattered from Lord Shiva's hand while he was drinking. Thus ends Chapter 7 of Canto 8. Lord Shiva saves the universal by drinking poison. Anyway, I have to go, but if you would please, I believe that Vladimir Slipsov will continue reading, so you can read the next chapter, The Churning of the Milk Ocean, and maybe the next chapter, the Lord incarnates as Mohini Murti. I unfortunately have to go. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful day and wonderful hearing and chanting, and may all blessings be upon you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.